Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, so we are live, and we're adding in the Weasel Skull guy. Hey, it's Weasel Skull.
Hello.
What's up, Jason?
Come on, Jason.
Hey, how's everybody?
Doing
All
good.
right. Glad we get an Albrecht to join us.
Got 50% more Albrecht here.
Couldn't get Jared, so you'll do.
Okay, I'll do it.
I'm a big fan of your action film Face Off, by the way. Love that podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thanks,
Huge
Kevin.
fan.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, great. That's a great show.
I'm getting all jealous of that USS flag I see in the background back there and Chad there.
Yeah,
Nice.
we were talking earlier. Was telling me he's debating whether to put the Terradrome or the flag on. I'm like, no, definitely the flag. That's
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's not even a question. Right?
just pick an angle and roll.
But what's harder to find now, though, the flag or the Defiant?
You know,
I think the Defiant.
I've seen a flag in the wild.
I
have not
would
seen a
say the
Defiant.
Defiant.
I haven't seen a Defiant in the wild either.
It's not also just a Defiant versus a flag. It's like the vehicle and every little thing.
Yeah.
You know, my flag was only missing like 3 things when I got it.
very
So,
nice.
Defiant, forget it. You just find a shell.
Yeah.
All right, we're on
Cool.
YouTube. Good.
Okay, so let's get going then. If you guys are ready.
Ready to roll.
Oh yeah.
And welcome to G.I. Joe Bravo Team, our secondary show where we talk about anything not directly related to the comic or the cartoon show. Cartoon show? Yeah, close enough. Joining me, as usual, one of my regulars from my regular G.I. Joe show, we have Kevin, the Raider nerd. Hey,
Good to be
Kevin.
back. Good to be
Glad
back.
to have you back, man. I've missed you. How's
Yeah, I
how's
know.
life treating you?
Good. Always love it when I can make it on and talk about some G.I. Joe. You know me, man.
Oh yeah, I love having you, man. Enjoy the conversations. Also joining us, I had him on the last episode of G.I. Joe since everyone else bailed on me. Kevin's got his stupid football stuff to watch. Pat has his family stuff. Jeez, people. Oh, nice sword. Also joining us is one of the, I guess, the better Albrecht brother,
True.
Jason Albrecht,
I'll go with
aka Weasel Skull. Hey, Jason.
Hey,
What's going on, man?
General Moss, thank you for having me on. This is been looking
always.
forward to it.
Oh, enjoyed talking to you last time, and I know you said you're in charge of the Bravo team, so it made sense to have you on an episode of Bravo Team.
That's right. Bravo team's always standing ready. You know how it is.
Also joining us, a guy I've been talking with quite a bit over on my GI Joe Facebook group. First time on the show, we have Chad, aka Toy Guy Chad.
Yeah.
Hey, Chad.
Yep. Gentlemen.
Thank you for joining us, sir.
Well, here since Kevin's just flashing stuff randomly.
There you go.
We got Kevin holding up the sword. We got Chad holding up a Snake Eyes figure. And for the people that's not watching this on the YouTube, if you're just listening to this on the Bravo team, Mr. Chad is sitting there flaunting his flag right behind him.
Not fun. It's just there. It's just look. I'll
The fact
cover
that
it.
you have it, you're allowed to officially
I'll
flaunt.
just get out. I mean, you can barely see it.
No, you're allowed. In fact, since you have one, you have to flaunt it. That's just the way it
It's
is.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
It's kind of a permanent fixture once you find a spot for it, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It ain't moving nowhere.
No,
That's my
it sat in
understanding.
boxes for a year while I built the whole wall behind it just so I could put a base for it.
Yeah, before the show, Chad was showing me his wall there, and it's very nice. Makes me a little envious, but
Appreciate it.
of course, then we got Mr. Raider Nerd there with his whole background. Looks like most of the movies. Looks like there's some
I got a few DVDs.
Raiders.
Just a few.
Yeah, a couple. You
And
got
of
that Billy
course, I
behind
did
you.
break down subject of today's show. I have
Yes,
Blu-ray.
I bought it also on Blu-ray. I was
Of
debating.
Snake Eyes.
I bought it also. So yes, as Kevin is alluding to there, we are here to talk about Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origin. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins. I did that whole thing in quotes for those that can't see me because, but we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit of Snake Eyes. Before we get talking about it, let me give you a little information on it. Let's see. It was directed by, and I'm going to mess these names up because, well, that's what I do. Directed by Robert Schwanicki. It was produced by Ryan Goldner, Eric Losum, and Lorenzo Di Bonaventura. I know Lorenzo been involved with a lot of the G.I. Joe movies and stuff.
Yeah, Di Bonaventura did all the Joe movies.
Yeah.
And he goes way back to the 80s action films and stuff. He's
Oh,
got a long history of stuff. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I know that. I've seen that name on the end of a lot of movies and shows and stuff. So it was starring Henry Golding, Andrew Koji, Ursula Corbero, Samara Weaving, Arkua Abe, Takiro Hira, and Iko Usasi. I know I've messed a lot of those up, but that's what I do. The release date was July the 20th of 2021 international and July the 23rd of 2021 in the United States. And it was released on home video on August the 17th. Let me see real quick. Oh, it was a digital release on August the 17th of 2021 and released on Blu-ray, DVD, and Ultra Blu-ray on October the 19th of 2021. I know that I watched it at the theater and I bought it. Kevin, did you watch it at the theater or did you just
Oh, yeah, I went to the
watch
theaters here. Yeah.
and then you bought it?
Mhm.
Chad, he said that he's just watched the theater once and that's
One
it for
and
him.
done. I'm good. Yeah.
Jason, how did you watch this?
I saw it at the theater, and then I just watched it this morning streaming since it had been a minute since I'd seen it.
So half of us bought it looks like. So half of us were, no matter what our thoughts on it, half of us were paid out the money to own the hard copy of the movie.
That's true fandom right there.
We'll find out, I guess, as we get talking who the smarter ones were. I'm leaning towards Chad and Jason, but we'll see.
Well, we still all saw it in theaters, so either way, like we gave it our money.
Yeah, I got my
You do,
money.
you have to. But let's go ahead and let me give a brief. I'm going to say brief. Let me give a little summary on it. I'm pulling this information from the Wikipedia page. I'm just going to skim through it. Young boy is orphaned when his father is murdered. He grows up and takes on the name Snake Eyes. Wealthy Yakuza boss Tenkata Takamura discovers an underground fighting circuit in Los Angeles. He offers to find his father's killer if Snake Eyes works for him. Snake Eyes is asked to prove his loyalty by shooting a man who betrayed Kentura's trust. Snake Eyes refuses, helps the traitor escape, who we come to find out is Tommy, aka Storm Shadow. Tommy takes, I'm going to leave that and just go off my memory of it. Tommy takes Snake Eyes into the Arashikage family, and after some trials, Snake Eyes ends up, and I'm having a problem with it just because the way that it worked out, but turning traitor on Storm Shadow, and there was some gem that they got from the cartoon.
The Infinity Stone.
Things, the Infinity Stone that could destroy things, and
It powers the mass device, right?
I think so. And at the
The
end,
Soul Stone in the
Storm Shadow gets kicked out of the clan. Well, he doesn't. I guess he leaves the clan because he gets told he's never going to be the leader because he used the stone, and so he tells Snake Eyes, "Next time I see you, I'm going to kill you." He takes off. Snake Eyes.
Yeah, he did that classic. You can't fire me. I quit.
Yeah. So Snake Eyes takes off to find him. After when Scarlet asks him to join the Joe team, he says, "Sure, but I've got to do something first."
Yeah, she goes to give him the file about his dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
But and that's basically the movie. So let's go and get some. As you can tell from my thoughts, my description of it, I'm not a big fan of it. But let's get some thoughts. Let's start with our guest, Chad. Okay, moving on. Kevin.
I mean, if we just want to break it down in small bites.
Yeah, let's start. Let's go through. Let's take it in some small chunks. Let's go ahead and look at the actors first. Let's just take a brief look at all the actors they had. So we had Henry Golding as Snake Eyes.
Mhm.
Chad, what are your thoughts on Henry Golding? Are you familiar with him from anything else? What did you think about him as Snake Eyes?
Well, yeah, I'm familiar with Henry Golding, and like he was really good in The Gentleman. He's a good actor. Like he's a really good actor. Him as Snake Eyes. But this kind of folds in a lot of other problems, though.
Right.
You know, like, because as soon as you say something about him as Snake Eyes, then people got to pull out, you know, they're going to pull that thing out of the corner.
Well, let's go and get some other brief thoughts real quick, and we'll come back to that. Let's circle back to that.
Yeah.
Kevin, you're nodding your head. You're familiar with Henry from other works?
Yeah, I first really recognized him from Crazy Rich Asians, which I love. It's a great film and great cast as well. And then I remember him in The Gentleman as well. So when he was first cast as Snake Eyes, obviously I was just like, okay, so they're kind of reinventing this character from the start, which means we're not going to get the movie we really, really wanted. But I like him. And I'll just go on that for now, and I'll touch on that a little bit later.
And Jason, are you familiar with Mr. Golding?
I was not. I haven't seen Crazy Rich Asians or The Gentleman, so he was kind of a known quantity to me. I will say I agree with Chad's assessment. I thought as an actor he was fine.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a problem with him playing Snake Eyes as much as I do with what they did with the characters Snake Eyes. I have more problems with the writing and the directing than I do with the actor. So I guess I'll just leave it there for right now. I think that the actor's fine. Had problems with the plot.
Oh, okay, and I'm much like Jason. I've heard the name, but yeah, I've never watched Rich Crazy whatever Asians or
Crazy Rich Asians,
whatever it is. I haven't watched that one. I
advise you guys to check it out. It's a really good cast. It's very funny. It's endearing, and it's shot on location. It's beautifully shot, and it's entertaining.
I saw parts of it. Like, wife had it on in another room, and I was kind of coming and going, like just like checking it out and doing other stuff. Yeah,
right on. Y'all have to check that out. But yeah, when I first heard and saw who he is, again, I'm a big person of I don't like when they change the race of an established character, especially when it's part of his backstory. So that was a big disappointment for me, I guess, a big downer for me. Though I thought he did fine with what he was giving. But yeah, like you guys already alluded to, it's other than him not being a white guy, which isn't his fault. I thought he did fine. It was the writing and the characterization and everything else that was laid out for him, as we'll get to, that I didn't care for. Andrew Koji as Tommy, aka Storm Shadow. Let's go in reverse order. Jason, are you familiar with this, or what did you think about Storm Shadow briefly in this?
Again, not familiar with the actor, but I thought he was fantastic. I think to me he was the highlight of the film, particularly if you look at the elements of the comic book character Storm Shadow. I think that the film captured him the closest, and I think the actor did a fantastic job. Physically, he obviously was in top shape. The action scenes were great. His acting was very good, very powerful. So yeah, to me, I think he was kind of the shining star as far as the casting goes for this movie.
And Kevin, what are your thoughts on Storm Shadow, aka Andrew Koji?
Yes, Weasel Skull said it best. I think he was probably the best character in this. He's a good actor too, and I actually was familiar with him because I got turned on to the TV series Warrior that he did, which I think is on. I can't remember if it was Amazon or something like that. Highly check it out. I think it's 2 seasons in, and it's based on early work that Bruce Lee had written about, and it takes place during the really hard times of culture clash in the Bay Area, San Francisco area during the turn of the century with the railroad workers and people gaining power and a lot of the immigrants that were coming in and clashing with like the people that were there and stuff like that. And his character has an ulterior motive, and he really gets to shine with his martial arts skills. So I was very familiar with him. And he also did a couple of episodes of Peaky Blinders as well. But he was great as Tommy. And then, of course, Storm Shadow.
And Chad, any thoughts? Are you familiar with
Kevin's too hard to follow. I don't want to follow Kevin anymore. No,
I'm a big movie nerd. I'm sorry.
No. It's awesome. It's awesome, man. Like I love it. I would just have to say the same thing. Like, you know, in the scenes that he's in, like he brings a lot of like meat to the scenes. I mean, I was a little biased. Like, I'll be honest, the whole time I'm watching him as Storm Shadow, I'm like, I really like the other guy, you know, from the other two movies, Rise of Cobra and Retaliation. I really liked him. So I was like he was good. He was good. The whole thing that like you're watching a Snake Eyes movie and you're like all about like Tommy Arashikage the whole movie. Like, it's a little weird, but yeah, he was great. He was good.
Yeah, and again, I'll agree with Jason that I'm not familiar with him from anything else. But yeah, he was the movie. He was the best part of the movie. He was the best. I think he was the best. Again, given what they were given, he did the best with it, and so I think that leaves a lot of why I liked his character and I liked him in the role. But they were all good actors. But yeah, I thought he did a great job, and yeah, he was very much. Well, I did like the guy from I forget his name offhand from the first two GI Joe movies. I thought that Andrew here did a great job as Storm Shadow, and I wouldn't mind seeing him more in further GI Joe projects.
That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen now. let's just be honest. It's not going to happen.
It's not looking good.
And we'll talk about the other characters as we get to them, I guess. So let's go look at the plot of the movie, as they call it. So we'll start out at the beginning of it where we get the young Snake Eyes, and his father is murdered. This guy hunts him down, finds them where they're hiding at, and has him roll some dice, and he rolls Snake Eyes, so he loses, and the guy kills him. Chad, what are your thoughts about the opening scenes on this?
So I'm not following you, Kevin. So, so immediately this kind of sets the tone for the film. So like it's kind of tone deaf, you know, so it's childishly written because the kid asks, "Oh, is there a safe in the cabin? Because I heard you on the phone and you said you're at a safe house." And right. And so like immediately you're sort of like, okay, it's a little weird. You know, it's a little tone deaf, like Luke Skywalker chucking the lightsaber over his shoulder. You're like, this is going to be different, right? It's going to be something else. So there's that. The whole roll the loaded dice, Snake Eyes. I don't know. That's I'm going to pause right there. But
all right, that's fine.
Yeah. But that's kind of where I'm at, is the whole tone deaf.
And Jason, what are your thoughts on this intro?
Yeah, I guess just building off Chad's foundation there. The intro, it started losing me right out of the gate. Don't care what Snake Eyes' childhood was like. The whole backstory about trying to avenge his dad's death was contrived and kind of started it off down the wrong path for me. For me, the G.I. Joes start as military men and women, right? That's where they come together.
Right.
And the relationship between Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, going back, meandering a little bit, I apologize, but going back to what you said earlier about him not being a white man, I don't care about that. They could have made him any race that they wanted. And as long as the story centers around the soldiers and the camaraderie that they formed in combat, transitioning to him coming into this world and being an outsider that gains acceptance, while the insider, the one that has the blood rights and everything else, slowly starts to realize that this person is a better moral person, more fit person to lead the clan than he is. And having that that dynamic start to change and that friction take place, that to me is the core of Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. And everything else, what they laid down out of the gate with this scene in Washington. Love you, Washington. Hey, I'm a Washingtonian, so good on you. But to me, it just felt false. It felt contrived, and it started the movie off on the wrong foot from page one for me.
You're muted there, Aaron.
I
What?
always do that.
What?
Background noise doesn't bother you guys. Forget to unmute. Try that again.
I'm going to do it at least 3 times during this thing.
I'll do it right now. Whatever.
So, Kevin, you're a movie guy. I know you have thoughts.
Going into this movie, I knew they were going to completely rewrite this favorite character, hoping that it would pay off to leave into other movies, to branch into, an actual G.I. Joe movie. And this was basically, when I started watching this, I was going, okay. And I went in knowing, I went in with low expectations, basically, to try and enjoy this film. And I enjoyed it to a certain degree, and I'll touch on more of that, but I had a lot of problems with it like everyone else did. But this was their opportunity to, to completely rewrite this character and get the I guess the moviegoers understanding a little bit of background. I thought it could have been better if there was a direct tie to Cobra, whether it was a little more inadvertent, instead of being told that later in the movie, and maybe even a little tease to a G.I. Joe group that we find out about his dad later on, just something to kind of give us a little something to feel familiar with right out the bat. Because a lot of people I've heard overall complaining about this film is that it's a decent action film with a little bit of sprinkle of G.I. Joe into it. And it would have been better if we got more of that in this. But that's what the impression that I got watching it, straight out of the bat here, going, okay, we're just completely, wiping the complete history out that we know, and they're just going with something brand new here.
And you have to agree. That's what I was talking to a friend of mine at this restaurant we go to. I'm friends with the owner, and he was asking about Mike. Well, it's a good action movie, like a martial arts type movie, but yeah, it's mainly G.I. Joe in name only, really. I mean, they got some sprinklings here to make it look like it, but the intro. If it wasn't Snake Eyes I was watching, like I said previously, if it was a different movie, wasn't related to G.I. Joe, I think the intro's fine. We get the kid, his father getting killed, the kid escaping. And we get the setup that, the bad guy rolls the die, makes people roll the dice, so they get Snake Eyes, which ties in later. We find out that it's fixed. I thought that was okay, but again, like Kevin said, I went into this. I'm a big fan of what Larry did in the comics, as we've talked about previously. We talked about earlier. So I really liked what Larry did in the comics. So, and I knew going into this, the brief things I saw beforehand, that I wasn't getting that. So I went in expecting the worst. And again, I still wanted to see a G.I. Joe movie. So while I didn't hate the opening part, it's not what I wanted, which I think kind of where you guys are all at. And real quick, just want to get some shout outs. We got some people watching on the YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
We got Lee Sharp, Baton Hedge over there watching. They both said hi. So, hey guys, glad you guys are there. Anyone else watching, feel free to give a shout out to y'all in the chat room. So anyways, yeah, so the opening was okay, but yeah, it's, I don't know. I thought it was, I don't know if I like the fact that he took his name Snake Eyes from the dice that his dad had to roll and rolled Snake Eyes and died. I don't know how I feel about that. Again, for being a Snake Eyes movie, I don't like it. If it was some unrelated movie, okay, maybe it's a little corny, but it is what it is. But again, as I said, I am very particular about my movies.
It feels like that's how Nicolas Cage would get his name in a movie,
That's fair. That's more than fair.
Very good comment.
Like his character on Con Air was named Con Air because he flew on Con Air. It's that kind of silliness,
Yeah.
The thing about this being a G.I. Joe movie, like at least in X-Men Origin Wolverine, like X-Men Origins was like as big as Wolverine, and like
right.
Snake Eyes, it's like Snake Eyes,
Yeah.
right? And like even the reshoots, like I know we're going to get into it later, but the reshoots, like they are jarring. Like you can see where they were like, "Might want to put some more G.I. Joe in your G.I. Joe movie." You know what I mean? Like I'm going to call this chick. She's in the bathroom. And it's like It just comes out of nowhere. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. So then we meet up with the Kenta Takamura
Yeah, Kenta.
that hires Snake Eyes, and he gets introduced to Tommy, and he doesn't kill Tommy because they're friends, even though he's supposed to, and they fight and they run off together, which we find out was a setup. Let's get some thoughts on that. Kevin, let's go and start with you this time.
Yeah, forgetting his name, but he promises to find his Snake Eyes' father's killer, to get him on there. And and that whole scene where they're working at the docks, and and then Tommy is I guess labeled a traitor or whatever, and Snake Eyes decides to save his life. I do like that kind of fight scene that leads him to the truck, and there's all those like ninja swords stuck in the truck. I did find that entertaining. It was a good way to get these two characters bonded and together, and then it leads to the private plane that Tommy has as they head back to or as he heads back to Japan.
And Jason, this beginning scene here with the introduction of Tommy and Snake Eyes meeting, and Snake Eyes saving Tommy, only to find out later that that's not really what happened.
Yeah, I think this is one of the stronger scenes. It really kind of introduces and fleshes out Kenta, so you kind of get to know him. He's very charismatic, obviously seeing danger. Just kind of goes from charming to creepy to downright dangerous. The fight scene I thought was really well done. I thought it did a good job at capturing that initial bonding moment between Snake Eyes and Tommy, and just kind of the way that it was filmed and the poses and how they were just kind of naturally flowing off of one another in the fight. I thought was very, very well done. Again, I guess the only thing kind of negative that I would say about the scene is, again, I just didn't like what they did with Snake Eyes, having the character really running guns for the Yakuza. It doesn't sit right with me as a fan of the character from the comics, because the fan of the character from the comics from the jump is dangerous, but he's loyal and he's also honorable, and you can just erase the whole honorable right out of the gate here. So at any rate, yeah, I think that it was a great action scene. I thought the two main protagonists did a great job, and I thought it showed the villain Kenta that he did a really good job framing him. And I'll just stop there.
And Chad, we'll let you follow Jason, see how that goes. Your thoughts on this scene?
See, I'm going to go in the other direction with this, because this whole thing with Kenta, right? So, Tommy comes up to, I guess all he goes by is Snake Eyes, whatever. So Tommy comes up to Snake Eyes and he's like, "Hey, boss wants to see you." And he's like, "Oh, is somebody in trouble? Or am I in trouble?" He's like, "Well, somebody is," right? And so they set up that whole thing where, Kenta's, kind of like threatening everyone in the group, and there's no context for this about the traitor. It's just like it comes out of nowhere, so like I didn't feel any tension in that. He's just like, "Oh, there's a traitor here." It's like, okay. So to me, it was just random, and kind of going off what Weasel Skull was saying about Snake Eyes as a character, the honor, the integrity, the things like that. And like this guy, in this movie, he's just kind of being carried along by the story. Right. You know what I mean? Like Snake Eyes, even if we just say, okay, we're not going to fully like dive into like his comics origin, like issue 26 and 27. Like say we're just going to, just the character. Let's just break the character down. Like he's tragic. He's motivated. He's driven. He's honorable. He has integrity. He's part of a team. He's not in that. Again, why are we doing an origin movie when it's G.I. Joe and G.I. Joe's a team? So this Snake Eyes is like, he has no integrity. He's not honorable. Like, you find out throughout the whole movie, like, he is driven by one thing and one thing only, and it's revenge.
Right.
And that's it. Like, nothing else drives this guy in the movie. Like, if it wasn't for this random encounter with Kenta, where they tell him, you're going to shoot Tommy Arashikage in the head, he would have never been drawn into this story. So that's where I'm going with that scene. I had no context for it. I was like, okay, whatever. Just watching it. So.
And again, I'm going to keep saying this, but as an action movie, I thought that was a good scene. I enjoyed that. The way that, this character, we'll call John, who they called Snake Eyes, he was being honorable to his friend. He didn't want to shoot his friend. I mean, yes, he's a bad guy because he runs drugs or guns for the Yakuza, but he's doing it to find out who killed his father. All that's very admirable. But again, that's if it's just some other unrelated movie. But yeah, to be Snake Eyes, and that's just part of it there, is that he's working for the Yakuza. He's, doing whatever they want him to do for the most part, which is very un-Snake Eyes like, let alone what we find out later in the movie, which I already mentioned, but we'll get to, that kind of even ruins the scene even more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as a standalone movie that's got nothing to do with G.I. Joe or Snake Eyes, I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it. But trying to tie it to Snake Eyes, yeah, that's where they lose me. Really? That's Snake Eyes? I mean, not really. But okay, whatever. I'm not going to argue with you. I'll go along for the ride and see where else you're going to go with this. So, yeah, and I'm going to keep saying that throughout the show that, is it action movie or, an unrelated movie? Yeah, it was good. G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes? I don't see that. So after that, and real quick, shout outs to the people watching us. They're on YouTube. As I showed earlier, Lee Sharp said they have all these millions pumped in these movies and they can't do the basics right, sadly. And yes, I think we all agree with you on that, Lee. And something we talk about here in a little bit, Lee also said CGI snakes sucked.
I actually have that written in my notes for later about the CGI.
I think we were all waiting for the CGI snakes.
Yeah.
There was CGI snake. Those weren't written in our mind. Moving on to the next part of the story.
So if you don't mind, real quick,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just kind of want to piggyback off of something that Lee was saying without being direct about it. So this movie opened against an M. Night Shyamalan movie, right? Shyamalan's movies haven't done really well lately, But Shyamalan's movie Old cost $10 million to make, and it beat Snake Eyes, right? An $89 million production with a break-even budget of anywhere between $165 and $175 million.
Right.
Like it. So kind of going off of what Lee was saying, like hard numbers don't lie. So it's just something to think about too. I know we haven't really touched on that yet. But.
Right. Well, and touching on that, like I say, I went and saw this one because it was Snake Eyes, and the name is what brought me in. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have watched it at the theater. I would have waited for it to come on HBO Max or wherever it's going to show up at. If I went to the theater, I would have went and watched Old probably. But seeing how this was Snake Eyes, that's why they got my money, honestly. And we've talked about that before. That's why they got my money twice. So again, at the theater and then also for the Blu-ray. So, but let's go and move on. And like I say, if I'm going along and you guys have anything else you want to throw in there, feel free to stop me, throw something at me as I go along. So Tommy's grateful that Snake Eyes saved him, so he took him to his ninja dojo in Tokyo to become part of the clan, to meet his family. Let's go and get some thoughts on this section of the movie where he meets the head of security who doesn't like him and all that good stuff. Chad, since you don't like following up with either of these other guys, we'll start with you this time.
No, I was just kidding. I was just kidding. I was trying to give Kevin props because he's quite articulate.
Oh, he is. That's why I like having Kevin on.
Thank you, sir.
I mean,
Bring my show
Akiko,
level, with him on here. So
yeah, Akiko's fine. Like, she just kind of floats throughout. Again, I'm kind of that, like, yeah, being in the military for so long, right? I have that KISS method, that keep it simple, stupid. Like,
Right.
why is he even there? Like, he just goes, it's just carried through the story. Like, cool, I'm here. Yeah, sure, I'll do your trials. I mean, what? I think it sets up what follows, but I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't really have much for this part.
And real quick, with throwing here a comment from Lee in the chat. It felt a little bit Mortal Kombat-ish and the Fast and the Furious too. And yeah, I think we can agree with that.
Yeah,
And the Matrix and Indiana Jones and
Weasel Skull. You have thoughts on this part where they introduce the clan and get Snake Eyes going through starting the trials and all that, and meeting the head of security and the family?
Yeah, I think, boy, I guess obviously the big difference here is instead of hard master and soft master, we have hard master and blind master. I think, and I'm cheating here and look at on IMDb because I know the actor from The Raid, and he was in the Star Wars. Iko Uwais, is that? I don't know if I'm messing that right. Yep. I mean, he's a fantastic actor. I've seen him in a lot of martial arts stuff, and he's very impressive. Thought he might have been a little young to be hard master.
That's my thoughts too. Yeah,
he kind of looked like the same age. But and even though we didn't have soft master, which I could have played soft master if they were looking for put a fat guy in a gi, we're there. But Peter Mensa, again, cheating. I knew him from the Spartacus series.
Oh, okay. My wife watched.
He's a really good actor. So I thought that would actually, to me, seem kind of an upgrade. One of the things I was like, okay, instead of soft master, this blind master guy is pretty cool, and they definitely got a good actor to play him. So I like that. Going to the head of security, and what was her name here again? Haruka Abe. I thought she was a very good actor, and I guess the thing that really disjointed it for me was it seemed like she was supposed to be the love interest, where we kind of got Scarlet circling around on the outside, and I'm like, Scarlet Snake Eyes. That's like peas and carrots, if I can mix my movie metaphors there with Jenny and Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
So that seemed a little odd to me, but I didn't mind her. I thought she did a good job. Yeah, did a good job, and she was a good actor. So overall, and then obviously having the grandmother as the head of the thing was a bit different, but I thought it seemed to work for me. So I guess it's a long-winded, rambling way of me saying there's a lot of things that were different, but I didn't really mind it. I thought the core Arakagi group was okay.
And yeah, the blind master was from the books also, and so was the granny, the leader. She was in the books also more recently. So yeah,
a lot of people are trying to say that she was the soft master. I was like,
no, I think soft master was a different guy. Wasn't one of them?
Yeah,
was killed by Zartan. It's been a long time, but at any rate, I thought that I thought that the core group was fine.
And Kevin,
I like the setting of the Arashikage clan stronghold, I guess you could say, and I like the fact that it's updated with a lot of high tech stuff on the inside with their surveillance, all that kind of stuff, and I thought that was kind of cool. And I love the cast that was introduced as well, including Haruka Abe as Akiko, head of security. I thought she was good. She had some charisma as well. I like Peter Minash as the blind master. And I like the old lady, Iri Ishida, as she's going by as Sen on IMDb anyway. I thought she was good too. Big fan of Iko Uwais as a hard master, but he was severely underused in this film for someone with the abilities that he has and his martial arts skill. It's kind of like asking Bruce Lee to come in and be the intercom voice of Charlie and Charlie's Angels. It's a big waste of time, man. I mean, he had that nice training sequence with the water, and you got to see a little bit of him do a little action at the end. But if you're going to bring someone like that in, you really got to give him some meat to chew on with some fighting and stuff like that. And that I have to give credit to this one observation to my friend Johnny. He's a fellow G.I. Joe Finest costume member. The one thing I didn't like about how the Arashikage clan was portrayed was that it said in a line that like they fight the forces against evil, and they've always, done to protect people and stuff. But to me, that Ninja Clan is kind of about history of assassinations and being paid to do not so good stuff, and maybe they do some good stuff from time to time. But back to my friend Johnny, he said it felt like the Arashikage clan was like treated like it was Hogwarts, and it totally rang true with me. I'm like, it kind of felt like that a little bit, But I love the setting, and I love the actors that were brought into it. I just have a little issues on how the clan was portrayed and such.
Well, I mean, I had to push back on that a little bit because I, as a Bond fan, it reminded me a lot of like You Only Live Twice with Tiger Tanaka and his ninja force that they used to fight against Spectre at the end of the movie. So to me, it was like, as a Bond fan, I liked it. But I understand what you're saying. Historically speaking, it's like ninjas, not necessarily on the side of the angels all the time.
Well, even in the first trailer, right? If you guys remember the first trailer, like in the voiceover, they talk about peacekeeping ninjas.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Peacekeeping ninjas?
Yeah, I got a piece.
And then
of this guy over
I have
here,
to go ahead and
this
agree. Like,
guy over here.
yeah, exactly. So I thought we were just talking about introductions, but the guy who played the Hardmaster definitely was underutilized. It's like when all the guys from the raid wound up in The Force Awakens. You're like, you didn't even use them. They were there like 10 seconds and they're gone. Like,
and they awesome. Ran away from a big rolling alien. That was it.
Yeah. And then they got. So, I mean, I didn't think we were talking about the trials yet. So whenever we get back around to the trials, I got some.
So like this whole area this whole middle section we can talk about.
Is this where we get to pile on the snake scene? Is that what we're doing now?
No. Wait, stop. Back up.
But like, a few minutes. We'll be there in just a minute.
So like, as I was writing notes so I could, make sure that I could recall things and, maybe points that I wanted to talk on, I got to say that I thought the Arashikage temple, their whole land and environment was beautiful. Like a lot of the settings in this movie are gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
Like the fight with the neon lights, that stuff's gorgeous. And the Hardmaster trial with the water bowl, I think was probably hands down my favorite couple minutes of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like just the way that they did it.
Yeah.
It was just excellently done. I was like, okay, maybe this movie's going to go somewhere. But yeah, best scene in the whole movie for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, Chad. I really like that whole Snake Eyes thought he had to fight for the water, and at the very end, he's like, "Oh, can I trade your bowl of water?" And that's how he finally won that. Yeah, I thought that was a very nice scene there,
and it's steeped, in like a warrior ethos. You know what I mean? Like like every culture that has warriors, they have like a warrior ethos. Like just because you can exact great violence on someone doesn't mean that you should. Like violence isn't always the answer. And so like that scene was just perfectly done. Like the tone in that was great.
Yeah, and over the chat, Lee pipes in. He says that he loved that scene also. So
Lee's an awesome dude.
But yeah, like Kevin said, I mean, I enjoyed the Arashikage scene. I enjoyed sorry, my mind just turned off for a second. Like Jason said, I thought the Hardmaster, he's a great actor. He's a great martial artist, but I thought he was a little young, a little short to be a stormtrooper, if you will.
Yeah.
I thought he was a little young to be the Hardmaster. Because again, in the comic, we do see what the Hardmaster, he's an older guy. I would have liked to see someone that's a little older, a little more years under their belt, if you were. But again, having picked this guy, I thought he did an excellent job with what he was given. I enjoyed the fact that, I don't remember if, go back to my notes, Akiko, I'm not sure if she was ever actually in the comic offhand, but I like the fact that, the Granny was in there, Blind Master, the Hardmaster, they all actually characters from the comic. Like you guys have said, I kind of wish the Soft Master had been there also, because again, and Larry did such a great job, as we've said. I'm going to keep referring back to issues 26 and 27. Mm-hmm. that's the pinnacle of Snake Eyes' origin. I don't know if it's just a nostalgic factor or what, but I thought Larry did a fantastic job on that. So I'm going to keep going back to that. That's kind of why I wish the Softmaster was there also, because he was always a big part of the clan. And again, in the comic, he ties into why part of why Storm Shadow left. And again, he's got a big storyline, which I'd say a big part of the storyline coming up in the books that we're talking about. So, but yeah, I did enjoy the Blind Master. And again, I'm horrible at names, as we've talked about. So the Blind Master was Peter Mensa. That's what I'm going to call him. I thought he did a great job. Yeah, this was just a great way to introduce the clan. And yeah, I love the way Snake Eyes is going through these trials, except for what, again, later on in the movie makes this all kind of bull crap, I guess, but which kind of ruins it. But just as a standalone, like Chad was saying, yeah, when I saw this, I'm like, oh, this is kind of picking up. This is kind of what I'm going for, other than, I don't like the fact that, they had an Asian guy in there instead of a white guy, but I'm going to keep harping on that because that's who I am. But yeah, I thought that was a great scene. And that the whole segment there was really good, really well handled. Let me see real quick. Okay, so Snake Eyes goes through the 3 trials. He has to get the water from the Hard Master. They take him out, and he has that vision or whatever, where he sees his dad dying again. And then the 3rd trial is where he has to fight, I guess in quotes, has to deal with the snakes. And again,
yeah, that one's more of a pass fail right there. There's not a lot of prep.
Again, since this is
they chuck him in the well of the souls.
And Sean Odell, real quick, has joined us in the chat. Hi, Sean. And since this is a G.I. Joe movie, I guess he did have to fight snakes at some point, would have to come up. So let's get some thoughts on the trials all in general. We talked about the first one, sort of, but Chad, your thoughts on the trials in general, all 3.
I was going to say, we got to let Chad go first on this one.
No, why? Because I want to talk about the snakes.
So no, go ahead, Chad. Talk about what you want, man.
Just the water bowl, the warrior ethos, the violence isn't always the answer was awesome, and then I kind of had high hopes that it was going to pick up from there. The second one, I'll be honest, right? Because I only saw this in the theater, and I'm trying to recall it. I mean, I remember I was like, okay, but I don't really remember much to it. Because I got really great at the front end, and then the freaking Well of the Souls, Indiana Jones, horrible CG snakes. I mean, I get what's behind it, right? What's going on in your heart and things like that. And I understand how it ties into the end of the film, which I know we're going to get to, but I didn't like it. And I didn't like what came after it either. So I'm going to pause there.
And Kevin, would you like to follow up on that?
Hence Hogwarts. Hogwarts had a big snake thing inside of it, and had
the basilisk.
Had to be fought. And snake is a big thing. Anyway, that was the low light for me in the entire film. Was okay. We're gonna have him actually fight real gigantic snakes. All right, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
It's a G.I. Joe movie. You have to have snakes in it.
Conan did it better.
There you go.
Right?
Harry Potter did the snakes better. Jason, what are your thoughts on that section?
First off, I agree with Chad 100%. I think the first test was probably one of the highlights of the movie. Mm-hmm. Well acted, well choreographed. It's a good action scene, even though it's not a lot of frantic action. It's very smooth, like water. And Chad's absolutely right. As a warrior, the only fight that you're guaranteed to win is the one that you don't, that doesn't occur. If you can avoid the fight, right? And that's giving, that's surrendering your ego, the humility, just ask for the water. Thought that was a great lesson. The second lesson, Chad, and the only reason why I remember it is because I watched it again just before this podcast because I'd forgotten it too. I was like, What was that second one? It was the follow the light. The blind master had him follow the light, and then he recreated the scene of his dad being killed and the cabin burning, and he tries to save his dad, and the guy shoots him in his vision, and that's supposed to be the lesson that this is the thing that will beat you, will keep beating you until you deal with it. Which brings us to the well of the souls, and he didn't deal with it, and he went in there, and I don't know what he was thinking going into that well, because he knew he was dirty dogging these folks. He was dirty dogging the Ashikaga clan, and he went in there anyway. Boy, I don't know. It's like, I guess he didn't know there were snakes in there, but I've been like, throw me in that dark hole and something bad's going to happen if I'm not on the up and up. And I know I'm not on the up and up. So maybe I would have called in sick that day.
Can we take a pass on this challenge? Can I do it?
Yeah, that's right. Can I phone a friend for this one?
I was going to say, can I have someone else? Can Tommy
Call
do it for
Harry
me?
Potter, right?
That's right. Can we get Dumbledore up in here? Some Hermione. I don't know. But at any rate, yeah. So I think that, definitely the water challenge was most memorable for me. One of the better scenes of the movie, and then it went downhill from there. And I'll just say, once it starts hitting this metaphysical thing, it really starts to lose me. I like my G.I. Joe grounded. I like my G.I. Joe grounded in the military. That's just my preference. When it starts getting too ninja-y or too metaphysical, then I start
more sword, less sorcery.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to put it.
You like G.I. Joe the comic book better than G.I. Joe the cartoon.
Very much so. Yes.
You don't want to fight 100-foot tube worms? What's up?
Yeah. So another drawback to the cartoon. Yeah. And from the chat, Lee Sharp, I posted this earlier, said Conan did everything better. And then Sean came in and said that he has yet to see the movie. He had playing in the background as he worked on his customs, but he needs to watch it, pay attention. Don't judge me.
You will not be judged for not watching Snake Eyes. You're all good, bro.
Honestly, we do judge. That's what we do around here. But yeah, I think we're going to judge you positively for not taking time out to stand and watch it. That's probably a good thing.
Just going with low expectations, you'll enjoy it.
But Sean makes awesome customs. So.
Even lower expectations. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you want really low expectations. It's like, what was that? Saturday Night Live, lowered expectations. And we also get a comment from Lee. Grounded exactly should have gone that way than fantasy. Agreed. That's why, as we talk about monthly on the main show, the comics, while the comics and the cartoon are both different, and you can't really compare the two, the comic is usually so much better because Larry kept it more real, more grounded in reality than the cartoon. Whereas the cartoon brought in Cobra Law and tubers and fatal fluffies and
hey, don't you knock the fatal fluffies. I'll fight you.
I like them for what they are. I'm not going to fight you for this, Kevin.
Kevin, did you see that cosplay of the Fatal Fluffy?
Yeah, it's my buddy Rick Strange who did that, and he's fantastic. Yeah,
it's so awesome.
He's part of the Finest group, and he killed it. He also does I think he did a Croc Master too.
I think if it's the one Croc Master cosplay that is posted everywhere, then I've seen it with the red lenses.
Dude's amazing.
That's awesome.
But no. So yeah, I agree with Lee that they should have definitely kept it more grounded. That the cartoon has its place. Don't get me wrong. Like we've talked about, the cartoon has got what got me into G.I. Joe, but what Larry did on the book was so much better. And yes, it's not necessarily realistic, but it's much more realistic than what we get with the cartoon. And
that, you guys bring up the point about being grounded in reality, and military and stuff like that. And that was one of the things that I enjoyed reading the comic was learning some jargon that I didn't know about
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And which is one of the reasons why I hated the G.I. Joe Transformer crossover, because it just took me out of that reality. I know there's a lot of people that love that crossover, but I need my Transformers and G.I. Joes to be in their own universe to enjoy them.
Yes. I enjoyed the first crossover, but yes, I prefer that's an alternate reality to me. I much prefer, everyone says, you need to cross over Visionaries and Transformers and G.I. Joe
Unit E.
and Mask and all these others. No, we don't. I like them each in their own separate.
Mask makes a little more sense than
a
Transformers.
little
though.
bit.
In
Yeah,
my
no, a
opinion.
little bit, yeah. But I'm like, let's keep them each in their own reality. Let's, it's we don't need to always cross the streams of everything. We don't need to have everything interconnected. I like, my G.I. Joe a little more grounded.
I'm working on a 1/18 scale Rhino right now to go with
Nice.
my Matt
Oh,
Tracker back there. So
Can
And
I
then
join
Lee
your
pops
group?
off.
Can I join your group? That'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
hell yeah, come on, bring it.
And then we get lead in the chat saying
And
wrong.
Rom. Yeah.
But let's keep
And
this all separate.
Rom, Space Knight, Unit E, Matt Tracker.
But no, I like you guys have said it pretty much. I mean, the first task, the water, that was very nice. That was the best. In fact, that was probably the best 5-10 minutes, whatever, out of the movie. And it also kind of relates back to the last issue we talked about of G.I. Joe, issue 39, I think it was, where Tommy was training Billy, and they were out in the street, and these thugs approached him on the street, and Billy just gave him the side eye basically, and they backed off and didn't want anything. And Tommy's like, well, when you have the power, you don't have to use it. So that whole water thing kind of to me relates to that if you don't always have to use power to get what you want. It's kind of the same vein to me. So I really liked, because I rewatched this yesterday while I was working, because I work from home most days. So I've got it playing on the TV while I'm working just to refresh my memory on it. Because I hadn't seen it since I saw it at the theater. So I better rewatch this once at least to refresh my memory in case I missed anything or forgot anything. This is going to be talking about it. I want to get on the show and I don't remember anything about it now. Chad plays to himself.
That's this guy.
And then we get from Lee, the comic, the Marvel run is gold. Can't argue with you that was, yes, as we talked about all the time. But I did like the water bowl, but the other two, like I said, I had to rewatch it because I knew that, the blind master took Snake Eyes out at night and he's like, this test is for your own. And he had a vision of his father dying. He was trying to interact with it. And okay, it was okay. And then, the whole Harry Potter snake scene there it had to be snakes. Going back to Indiana Jones. The horrible CGI snakes. And then what's her name? Akika jumping down to save Snake Eyes and getting in trouble for that. You didn't trust him. You should have let the snake take care of him. But again, if not a Snake Eyes movie, would have been a little bit better, I think. But the whole ending kind of just even messes this up because, like you guys said, he gets down there in the snake, and you got to be true and all this, and he's lying the entire movie. He's not who he says he is. The snakes need to eat him. I'm sorry. I know I'm supposed to be rooting for Snake Eyes. It's his movie. I love Snake Eyes, but the snake should have hit him at that point. And then real quick, get some thoughts from the chat real quick while we're here. Lee says, would have loved to seen some normal Cobra Troopers at the end. Never even got proper Troopers in Rise of Cobra Retaliation. This is true. And we got another thought from this Kevin Reitzel guy. Let's not forget Micronauts.
We're past that.
We're not.
Past that.
I just remembered him. I had to put him in the chat.
That's okay. That's fine. And Lee also says the Battle Force
Battle Action Force.
comic book was pretty much gold too.
Yeah.
And I read some of the Battle Force back in the day, or the Action Force back in the day. I picked them up at some different comic shops, and they were both great. But like
Blood
I said,
for the Baron.
what's that?
Blood for the Baron. Baron Ironblood.
Yes. And again, I'm not going to knock the cartoon because I will, but as I said, that's what got me into G.I. Joe. So I love the cartoon for what it is. But yeah, I much prefer both the Marvel and the UK runs because it was much more, I don't want to say reality because there was some stuff in there that maybe a slight off, but it was much more grounded in reality than the cartoon ever was. And yeah, with these snakes, we start off and we're going to get more cartoon-like in this movie here in a little bit. So, which we're going to talk about.
What?
What? So let's go. Again, I'm reading through Wikipedia and pulling information from there to talk about. So, so Snake Eyes goes in to meets up with Kenta. And this is where we find out that Snake Eyes is actually working on the sly, and he's not the honorable guy that he should be. We're also introduced to the Baroness and the mention of Cobra. We see the Cobra crates with the Cobra insignia on it. Let's get some thoughts on this whole section of the movie. Chad?
Sorry, I was looking up a comic book. What
Sorry,
section are we on? I'm sorry. Skip me. I'm sorry. Just skip me.
So we're just going to skip Chad because he wasn't paying attention. Jason, let's go over to you for a minute. This is the section where Snake Eyes goes into the city and he meets up with Kentra, whatever his name was. And we find out that he's actually double crossing Tommy, and we meet the Baroness, get the whole Cobra involvement. What are your thoughts, Weasel Skull?
Yeah, this is where I really kind of made my verdict on the character of Snake Eyes and said they have just gone way too far off course here. Not only is he really still working for Kenta, all that stuff that we set up before the friendship with Tommy and Snake Eyes, now it's meaningless. It was all a ruse. It's all deception. Life is a series of choices, and throughout this movie, Snake Eyes makes a choice to be not morally ambivalent, evil. Like he is at the beginning smuggling weapons for the Yakuza in order to exact his revenge. Now he set up that whole. We now know the whole fight where he freed Tommy at the beginning, like I said, was a ruse. So a lot of people got hurt, a lot of people got killed. Deceived Tommy gets into the clan solely to do the bidding of Kenta. Like, it's just a series of bad choices that runs so it's 180 degrees different from the Snake Eyes that we knew and we loved growing up here. So this is not conflict. These are decisions that he's already made that have ramifications, and he is definitely in the villain category in my book at this point. Verdict rendered.
Yes, can't argue with that. And real quick from Lee in the chat, Weasel Skull, that's a badass cool name.
Got it from G.I. Joe, for those who don't know. That was we started as Pat, Jared, and I started doing our podcast at the Long Box Crusade. We started doing the G.I. Joe issue 2. Was the first one I was on, and I made a comment. Say what you will about Quinn, the character Quinn from the comic book.
Quinn is awesome.
I said, that Weasel Skull necklace is kick butt, and I wish I had a Weasel Skull necklace. And then everybody started calling me Weasel Skull from there, and that's how the name started.
But what's your cat's name?
Oh, the one that jumped up? That was
Yeah.
Buffy. That's Buffy.
Nice. We're all over here showing toys, and there's like, here comes a cattail. One up us.
Oh yeah, no, this is Buffy's house. She just lets me live here.
And Kevin, what are your thoughts on the introduction of Baroness and Cobra and finding out what Snake Eyes is really about?
Yeah, Jason said it pretty well. This is where things were getting kind of weird with their direction of retelling Snake Eyes' history here. And the one, okay, so, obviously he has, when he's introduced to Kento,
Kenta.
Kenta, about the option of joining him because he knows how to find his father. So he has, I don't know if he has this new crusade now. We don't really know if he is a good person, but there's that one line where after he saves Tommy and he says, I don't kill or I don't murder people or something like that. So then you kind of feel, okay, he's got a moral compass, but then you see him go and do this and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So the first thing that came to my mind during this particular scene was, okay, so now he's turning against Tommy because he has his own agenda to find his father's murderer. There has to be something towards the end where he becomes redeemable. He does something that proves to Tommy and the rest of the clan here why he needs to stay there and become one of them. And so that I started building inside of me. It was kind of like, remember after Star Wars Episode 7 and 8, there was talk of how Episode 9 would be the redemption of Kylo Ren. And I saw no way you can redeem a character like Kylo Ren. He killed freaking Han Solo. There's nothing he can do to redeem, at least in my mind, that. And so those are feelings that were kind of coming up during this part of the movie. Like, how are you going to redeem yourself? Mm-hmm. And in my mind, I had one answer to that, and I'll mention that later.
And yeah, I had some of the same thoughts. I'm like, well, again, I don't like this as a Snake Eyes movie, but as an ordinary movie, sure, you got to have your main character. He has an arc. He does some bad stuff, and later on, he'll do something and turn, do a 180 and actually become a good guy. And Chad, do you have any thoughts on this?
I do.
We drop that right there and just Chad. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem, is that a hero's journey is a journey, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you have a starting point, you have a direction, right? And you work toward it. Like Luke Skywalker had a hero's journey. Right. Like Christian Bale, Batman Begins, had a hero's journey, right? Like this guy, I'm just doing me, and it just kind of snowballs. Like it gets worse and it gets worse and it gets worse. It's like, where's the hero's journey? Like we talk about, he's doing something. We talk about in the comics, like Snake Eyes had a journey, and this Snake Eyes, like, I just kind of see he's just out for him. It really feels a lot of the time like he's just out for himself. Also, okay, the Baroness, like I jokingly, like, I'm sure you've seen it, Aaron, right? Because I put it everywhere. Like I call her the Kareness, right? Because she's not the Baroness at all to me. Like she looks like she owns like some kind of intersectional bookstore, that has like poetry slams, and maybe she's like gluten-free.
That's why she's so freaking hot, though. There's something about the different glasses she has.
I'll take, okay, look, individual results may vary, right? I'm a big fan of that, and like we all have our opinions, but I will take Sienna Miller any day over this Baroness.
Sienna Miller was good, but I did find this Ursula, Ursa, I thought she was attractive. So
I didn't think she was bad, but compare her intro to Sienna Miller walking out of that ship at the beginning of Rise of Cobra, and I'm like, sign me up. What's up?
Point made.
Yeah, but you know what? Remember earlier I talked about the tone deaf thing. So it's supposed to be like, is this a movie for kids? Is it a movie for lifelong fans? If it's a movie for the lifelong fans like us torchbearers, well, yeah, I mean, you nuked all these characters, so obviously you're trying to get some other audience in. But you have the silly like safe house stuff in the beginning, like very rudimentary, like kind of writing, and then she's just dropping F-bombs. So it's like, where are you going with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really uneven.
Mm-hmm.
And then from the chat, we get Sean. Sounds like they really trashed the story, to be honest.
You're going to find out.
As we're talking about. But yeah, I kind of agree with what you guys have said. while I didn't find the Baroness unattractive, I thought she was very attractive. Yeah, the Sienna Miller.
Sienna Miller.
Thank you. I couldn't get that word out of my mouth, her name out. She did a much better job as the Baroness, but yeah, so we have the Baroness, and yeah, she did a good job with what she has. So again, what they give her, she did a good job with it. They could have got someone better, sure, but yeah, I wouldn't kick her out of my bed. That's another story entirely. But and real quick to move on from there, Lee says problem with Snake Eyes character is the mystery of what makes the character so cool. Of course, you can't do that in a movie unless you get incredible writers on it.
But Chris Nolan did it masterfully with the Joker and the Dark Knight. So like, he doesn't really have a backstory. You don't see his backstory, but he's so crazy that he keeps coming up with different histories. Like,
yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
I guess
S. Miller 100%.
Sienna Miller.
Yeah, I guess if we're going to talk about the Baroness, I thought physically she looked like the Baroness. I thought, okay, she's representing Cobra, but it goes back to something we said at the beginning. There's not a whole lot of G.I. Joe or Cobra in this thing. So there's that scene when she threatens to kill Kenta. She said, if Snake Eyes doesn't do what we want him to do, I'm going to kill you both. It's like, with what? You're not a threat to me down here. You're standing here. I could whoop you 30 ways till Sunday by myself, and I've got 100 armed guys back here. I never felt the threat, the menace of Cobra in there. And that's something that I thought was really lacking in the film as well. If we're going to talk about lack of Joe, there's kind of lack of Cobra as well.
And again, like to piggyback off that, it goes back to the whole like, let's put some G.I. Joe related stuff in this not G.I. Joe movie. So Cobra. Why'd you kill my dad? Cobra gives you an order, things like that. It's just see it like popping in and out, like always out of the periphery.
Yep.
I did like how the Baroness stood up to him. Like, yes, Weasel Skull, right? Great points that he could have destroyed her easily, but she just flatly told him. Like there was a little something in that moment where you're like, okay, she's probably got some weight behind what she says.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. That's fair. I just wish we could have seen that weight or seen something a little bit more.
Flexed a little more Cobra muscle that would represent how big of a global threat that they're becoming,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because in a way, if this is going to be G.I. Joe origins, Snake Eyes G.I. Joe origins, at least throw in a little more Cobra origins as well,
Right.
And like someone in the can't find it now said in the chat earlier, they could have done that is add some of the Cobra foot soldiers, some Vipers backing her up to get more of a Cobra vibe into it and to give her some backup and to give a little as Lee said, Cobra muscle. To give a little more, validity to her threat of, I'm going to kill you by yourself. If she would have had, several Vipers back there or Cobra Troopers or Crimson Guardsmen, for God's sake, that would have made it a much more powerful scene.
That'll be in the next movie. That'll be Baroness Cobra Origins.
Extensive Enterprises, Cobra Origins. It's all about Wall Street power plays and stuff.
I'd still watch the movie.
If it said Extensive Enterprises, I would probably watch it.
Yeah. And as Sean says in the chat, Baroness never should have had short hair. Damn it. I agree. I think she looks better. And personally, I think most women look better with long hair, but that's my own personal preference. But that's me. Anyways, and Lee also says in the chat that good thing about the movie, at least we got some extra classifieds out of it. Shame there was no 1/18th love, though.
I mean, if we're going to talk about the toys for this movie,
we'll talk about that later.
We can go into that later.
That's a whole nother subject. So let me see. So we talked a little bit there about Snake Eyes is actually betraying Tommy. He's got to get this. I gotta look see what it was called again. The Jewel of the Sun. So
It's a MacGuffin.
It's an Infinity Stone.
see, I thought maybe they pulled it from the cartoon because he has to get this stone that his family has hidden, and he's able to steal it from Tommy by tricking Tommy again. We think at some point Snake Eyes is going to turn the corner and become the honorable soldier warrior that we all love and appreciate. And no, not yet. So he steals the jewel of denial or whatever, the jewel of the fatal fluffies, and and again, that's what I thought when I'm watching and they're walking around. They've got this jewel blasting thing, saying things on fires, saying things on fire. I'm like, my God, this is out of the this is a cartoon. This is from the cartoon. Again, I'm not going to knock the cartoon, but I wanting the comic book. I'm getting much more of the cartoon. So this whole section with the Jewel of the Sun, and we'll lead into we'll go talk about the whole attack at the Cobra Temple, at the Rashagi Temple. Let's get some thoughts on that. Chad.
Oh, here's Arashikage in the background.
My wife's correcting me back there because I can't speak English or Japanese, something like that. Yeah.
I was just having fun saying it.
Imagine the kinds of problems Pat would have.
I honestly could not get dialed in with this bit with the attack on the Arashikage Temple. Are we at the part with the team ups yet?
Yeah.
That's the team ups.
Yeah.
This whole battle.
The only thing about that jewel MacGuffin, as Kevin says, which it is, right? It's totally a MacGuffin. It's just a plot device or Infinity Stone or whatever. It powers the mass device. It doesn't really do anything that like normal firearms couldn't do. Like, why do you need this jewel so bad? Like, just hold it out and you kind of go like that. Like, I could hit you with a 12 gauge shotgun. And you're going to do the same thing. I couldn't get dialed into that part. I didn't really get it. The only thing that I honestly remember, and yes, I probably should have rewatched the movie, but I'm not that committed. I'll be honest. Were the team ups, with Granny and Baroness and Scarlet, and then everybody else is over here, and they're all kind of doing their thing.
Go ahead and talk about that. Go ahead and dive into that portion.
That's it. I just found it interesting.
He liked it, but that's all. Kevin, so the whole MacGuffin battle at the end with the team ups and all that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just this MacGuffin stone is as powerful as somewhat as it was shown in it. Yes, you could do damage with just normal weaponry, but I guess it's more of a power to just own it, and it means something behind that. Kind of like if you're a Mandalorian and you have the power of the Darksaber. I don't know. But as for the team ups and stuff, I think I could shed a little bit of light. It seemed weird that we had all of a sudden. They turn against Cobra and Baroness, and now is teaming up with, the Rashikage clan, including working with Scarlet. I went and watched all the special features of the Blu-ray because I was curious to see if there was something that could shed some light and maybe like it even a little bit more. We'll see. By the way, there is a 3-minute animated feature on the sword and the history of the sword that is given by Tommy to Snake Eyes. A little history on that. But as they're interviewing the cast and crew on the set and such, and this was not in any of the deleted scenes, but I think there was some backstory that was given to the actors of who they are and who they know. And I want to say it was Samara Weaving. I think she was being interviewed, or it could have been Ursula as the Baroness, saying that actually the Baroness and Scarlet knew each other because they went to a university together. So there was a history of their characters that go back. And then, of course, they just went completely different ways for whatever reasons. But apparently there is a backstory that how those two characters know and they're familiar with each other.
Dr. Doom and Mr. Fantastic.
So they have more of a history than Snake Eyes and Tommy?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Irony.
So, I did enjoy this scene just because it was nice to, we saw a little bit of Hard Master get some action in there finally, not as much as I would have liked. And it was interesting to see them kind of work together and stuff. But, there had to be a final like battle scene somewhere, I guess. And it was serviceable. There was some entertaining scenes, especially with the blind master hiding behind that thing. I did get a chuckle out of that, to be honest with you, because I thought that was kind of funny. I wish he would have utilized that. Like, you saw Rambo in First Blood Part 2 come out of the mud and kill a guy with a knife. I wish he would have actually used that camouflage and stuff like that. But it was serviceable as a battle scene and such.
You actually use that background as actual battle instead of just as a humorous, oh, I'm here. Shut up, stupid dog. Anyways.
That's why I have cats.
What's that?
That's why I have cats.
My wife has cats and a dog. So anyways, Jason, your thoughts on this whole section?
Final battle scene. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Kind of the first time we see. Oh, very nice, very nice. See the Scarlet. Oh, we're showing off toys, are we? Hold on. I don't have anything as cool as you guys. I just have my GI Joe T-shirt there.
Very nice.
There we go.
I just got that in right as we started recording earlier. Me and Jad was talking about the Snake Eyes and Timber, and mine from Big Bad Toy Store finally came in. So
That's really
I
cool.
had to show it off.
I like it.
And the guys in the chat are talking about the classified toys. So
It's turned into show and tell all of a sudden.
yeah, that's what happens. And real quick,
I'm not getting into it.
you sit there and hush. We can see your show and tell in the background.
That's
And he
like-
at least says his dogs are barking because they heard mine barking.
Anyway,
And
final battle
Yes.
battle scene. I enjoyed it. Scarlet was kind of the first time we really saw her in action, all geared up and with the crossbow and everything. So that was kind of fun. Still don't know what I think of her as a character compared to the comic books. Jury's still out in my mind on her. Yeah, it was kind of entertaining. At the end of it, I guess I don't have any strong feelings about it one way or the other. By this point in the movie, I'd kind of made up my mind that the Snake Eyes was so far different from the Snake Eyes that I was hoping to see that I kind of just checked out in my mind and just kind of let the mayhem flow and just kind of enjoyed the ride for the last bit of it. And, it just kind of was what it was.
Yeah, and I enjoyed this last battle for what it was. Right before the battle, when kind of bridging into this, where Snake Eyes found the guy that killed his dad, and he let him go. I mean, I guess that's at the point where you Snake Eyes, the character makes his turning point. He becomes the good guy. No, he just joins up with he joins up with his gang because he found out that actually it was Cobra that was behind his dad's murder, and he didn't really learn anything. It was he's still going after the guy that killed his dad. He found out the guy that actually killed his dad. Well, like you guys said earlier, Cobra told me to,
Yeah.
So, now I'm going to focus from him, move it over to this other group. Oh, now we got these guys attack. I guess I'll join in this battle too. I never, throughout the whole movie, like we've talked about previously, I was waiting for Snake Eyes to, even though I didn't like it, because again, to me, Snake Eyes, as Snake Eyes, the character, I don't know if he needs to make the normal hero's journey where he needs to do something bad and learn and become a good guy. Snake Eyes, from what we know, should be an honorable character. That's who he is. Not everybody needs to learn a lesson to become good. Some people, believe it or not, some people are just good because, well, they're good people. And that's kind of always racked up Snake Eyes to be is, yes, he will kill people as needed. He will fight, but overall, he should be an honorable person. He should be, he should be a good person. I'm not, even through the very end, I'm not getting that from the Snake Eyes.
No, I think.
And we get from the chat real quick. Lee says maybe a Snake Eyes multiverse.
Multiverse Snake Eyes.
That's going to be that's going to be the go-to reason if there's a sequel or prequel to something that we don't like, we're just going to call it the multiverse version.
That's not a bad idea.
I do a Highlander podcast, and that's what I call Highlander 2.
Emily also says,
Highlander 2, man.
Well, we could do a whole podcast on that one. Lee, I kind of thought the same thing. That's why I watched it again this morning, just before I signed on for this show. And I don't know, there are some things that I caught that I missed the first time, but overall, I think my main problem with this is that it's just such a departure from Snake Eyes, and even to the point where he lets his dad's murderer go. Even that's like bad judgment, because
right,
if you're going to join the good guys, so to speak, at least turn this guy over to the authorities or to the Joes so that they can interrogate this guy and find out, valuable information about the organization, what he knows.
He's done work for Cobra.
I mean, you just turned over the weapon of all weapons to Cobra. Letting this guy go is not going to ease your conscience. And I'm glad that you decided to go back and save the clan, but at the same time, it's the clan you put in jeopardy in the first place. Mm-hmm. But it just popped in my mind. I did like the action scene on the back of that car trailer.
Yes,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like how all the motorcycles are electric.
Yeah. Hey, he's saving the environment. So there you go.
There you go. What's that, Chad?
The semi truck. Like, it's just one of those things that I always kind of go back to. I'm like, oh look, it's just like the Matrix. There's a semi truck. Even though it's not.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Black Panther a little bit. That scene.
Oh, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got the Well of the Souls. You got a semi truck. You just clicking all the boxes.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
I did like Samara Weaving in the costume. I did. When I saw it, I was like, I'll get behind that. That's pretty rad. Like, I thought she looked good.
Yeah, and that crossbow that was reloading, I thought was cool too.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
Yeah, there was like I say, it wasn't a horrible movie. There was some good scenes in it.
Yeah.
By the way, she is the niece of Hugo Weaving from the Matrix. So there's a little tie in there, just so you know.
Nice.
So while they were filming this, she was like, my uncle was in this movie. You need a semi truck fight. They're like, let's write that in there.
Who was also the Red Skull. But that's bringing it back to
Marvel.
Marvel.
For Vendetta and on and on.
Yeah. But yes, great actor. Anyways, and then we end up. So we have the final battle, and just reading Wikipedia here. This section, it says Snake Eyes later returns in secret, steals the jewel using his knowledge. Snake Eyes receives his reward for stealing the jewel. His father's killer, who turns out to be a Cobra agent. Having realized what his bloodlust has cost him, Snake Eyes spares the man and instead goes back to the Rashikage clan to warn them of Kenta's attack. I don't know if I really got that out of that scene. I don't know. Maybe it's just the Snake Eyes character in here has already thrown me off so much. I just didn't want to see that. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Well, he was a day late and a dollar short if he was going to warn him.
Exactly. That's what I was just thinking. Like, he went back to warn him because it kind of just like walked into it.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see that in the movie myself. But
again, like, it's the story driving the characters, not the characters driving the story. So if he goes back to warn him and he just kind of gets there and he's like, all right, cool. So I'm a little late. That he was put there to go back into the well of the souls.
Right.
Right. Because they just needed somehow for him and Kenta to wind up in the hole.
Right. And they had to bring back to the whole well of the souls where Snake Eyes had to actually face down the snakes and prove that he is a good guy now and he's more honest. And
Can we just call it the snake pit?
there you go. The snake pit.
Okay, snake pit.
Oh, snake pit.
Snake pit. That over. Good call, Kevin. But yeah, so I guess that's the real climax of the fight is Kenta and Snake Eyes at the snake pit, where this one snake swallows Kenta, and Snake Eyes is still chained to him, so the snake's pulling him up, and then the other snake comes up to him and kind of eyeballs him, and again the Snake Eyes still, like Marty McFly said in Back to the Future 2, shark still looks fake. The snake still looked fake.
Yeah. So bad. And
the snake comes up
the snake eyes him. Right. Snake eyes.
Yes.
I see what you did there, Chad.
Yeah. Because that's what I was thinking the whole time. I was like, oh, the snake is eyeing him. Oh, snake. I get it. Yeah.
But yeah, so what do you guys have any thoughts on that, on the whole showdown at the snake pit? Chad, any other thoughts on that besides your whole Snake Eye and him and all that?
Aside from what I was saying earlier, that the story kind of carried him to that point because the story needed to carry him to the point. As soon as it happened, I was like, it was just one of those kind of, not necessarily a trope, but it was one of those devices where I was like, I saw that. Like you just see it coming. Yeah, and that's really all I've got on that. Like we've already kind of gone around and around and around. Like the snakes are bad. Like that's bottom line. Snakes are bad.
Jason, any thoughts on that section?
Chad summed it up. I think at that point, we all kind of knew where this was going. He had to end up in that pit for a second time, and this would be his proof of his redemption. As soon as they started running through the woods and ended up there, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, they're both going into the hole. Bad guy's going to get eaten. Snake Eyes is going to pass the test the second time. I guess he could do a retake of that exam, but yeah, I mean, I think we've all said it. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I think by this point, like I said, I've checked out of Snake Eyes as the movie, and I'm going for the ride. I'm just riding it out the rest of the way.
Kevin, do you have any other thoughts on this section of the whole snake pit?
So basically, to survive the challenge of the big snake pit, you just play possum. You don't make eye contact. You play dead. Is that what you do? You just be submissive, Well,
that kind of leads to a question I've got for each of you guys. Your thoughts. So Snake Eyes, the first time he's going to get ate by the snake because it could see his heart and could see that he failed the test. The second time he passed the test because he was now more honest or whatever. Do you guys think that was actually honestly brought through the movie, that Snake Eyes actually turned and became a good person at that point? Do you think the snake should have let him go, or do you think the snake still should have ate him? Chad, what are your thoughts?
So I was kind of thinking about this while Kevin was talking. So I get where they were going with it. It's kind of a Phantom Menace situation. Like Lucas was going for some big themes with Phantom Menace, like really, really strong themes, but the presentation just became the Phantom Menace, right? So in his second test is the reflection, right? Like you couldn't have saved your dad. It's kind of like the Barry Allen trying to save his mom thing, and like what he creates in the process, right? So everything that Snake Eyes is going through, he's created because he has this thing where like he can't reflect on the fact that he couldn't save his dad, right? Which was the second trial. And then when he finally gets the dad's killer and the Cobra, right? And so he learned from the reflection piece, whatever, it was thinly presented, again, going back to the Phantom Menace thing. sure, you got to revisit the trial that he failed that technically got him kicked out of the clan. I just don't feel that the movie tries it, like it really tries. It tries to present things in certain ways, but it just it either falls short either through, again, like the kind of childish, simplistic writing, or we just got to move on to, like, kicking and punching and swords and stuff. So like it was trying to do themes and like really like deep emotional stuff, but at the same time it was just barreling past them so fast that it wasn't really like getting the emotional investment. Yeah, that's just what I think.
And Jason, again, my question to you: do you think that Snake Eyes changed? Do you think he should have passed the test the second time he was down in the well, or I'm sorry, the snake pit, as Kevin called it?
I think Chad's right on here throughout the course of this movie. In screenwriting, they have a theme called Save the Cat, and Save the Cat is taken from, like, if you remember one of the Lethal Weapon movies where they're in this building that's about to blow up, and one of them says the other, grab the cat, because there's a cat in the building, and they run out. What that does is it tells the audience that there's something noble about, you want to show them doing it. That's a literal Save the Cat moment. You want to show your character doing something that's noble, that's honorable, that's likable, even if he's gone through all the trauma that Snake Eyes has. And they kind of touch on it at the very beginning when he sees those kids and he plays soccer with them a little bit, and then they hit the car with the soccer ball at one point, and the guy pulls out a knife. He's like, they're just kids, right? So that's kind of a Save the Cat moment, but you're looking for that throughout the movie. You're looking for something that says, despite all the horrendous stuff I've been through, I'm still an honorable person, and there's still a journey for me to take. But every time you start to see one, it turns out, I was faking and I'm really still in league with Kent, right? So it's like, I got to throw that away. Oh, okay, maybe this thing, okay, because now, yeah, he said, I'm so sorry. Here, let's be blood brothers. And then he uses the blood to get the print, to break into. It's like there is, every time I see something that I think is like going to give me hope, you take it away from me, a couple scenes down the road. And that's just really, it's unfortunate. It's just bad movie writing.
And Kevin, you heard everyone else. What do you think? Do you think that Snake Eyes should have survived the second trial, or do you think the snake should have just gobbled him up?
Well, I think Chad and Jason did a great job of explaining what they should have done, and that is where there is a fault in the script, was that they lay these little seeds of why you think this character is noble, like Jason mentioned about the soccer, the kids and stuff like that, but the choices that the script made for the character moving forward towards the end just didn't really remind us of that, basically. And remember when I teased earlier that I have an ending I thought that would have worked a lot better, that I think might have helped with the character development and might have salvaged this film with most G.I. Joe fans. Yeah.
There's your ending.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Holding up the cover of the issue 21. But since they're rewriting this whole story, we're not going to see, unfortunately, that, but it would have been nice. But as I alluded to earlier, I felt going into Rise of Skywalker, there's no way Kylo Ren could be redeemed. And after watching the end of that film, I didn't feel that he was redeemed either. He just should have died, and that was it. So where do we go with this? The whole snake thing, I see why they went back to it. It was part of the trials and stuff like that. But I think it would have been better if we got a point to where you didn't really feel that Snake Eyes in this film was putting himself in complete danger and taking the bullet, so to speak, for everyone else and trying to redeem himself and realize he has been supporting the wrong people and he needs to be supporting his brother here, so-called brother, as in Tommy in this Arashikage clan. This is where we should have seen him make the ultimate sacrifice. Not saying that he should have died, but maybe this is where he becomes disfigured. He puts himself in front of people. Maybe this MacGuffin stone, messes with his face, because in this film we only get him in the famous Snake Eyes outfit with the hood for literally like 4 seconds. When he gets on, he puts it on, and they give it to him, and he gets on the electric motorcycle. But if we get a reason why he puts himself in danger, where he was expecting to die, but he doesn't, and he survives. Maybe that would have redeemed his character a little bit more, because he was willing to die. And also, then we finally get the Snake Eyes somewhat that we recognize from the past. There's a reason why he wears the mask. There's a reason why he doesn't speak anymore. Henry Golding is an attractive man. I'm sure that was never part of the original script, because they don't want to cover his face up for if they ever do a sequel. I get that. But I just felt that for us that wanted some type of connective tissue from the comics to this movie, they should have done something like that.
Yes. And since I was thinking that I didn't think he deserved the ending he got, surviving that. But I do think that your change to that, Kevin, would have been a whole lot better. That would have been nicer.
Let me ask you guys, would have that redeemed the movie a little bit if we got the Snake Eyes sacrificing himself? He gets horribly disfigured. He's forced to wear that mask. He can't speak. And he joins the clan, and he tries to, Tommy could still have his thing and go off, because, he does need to join Cobra for a while and do his Cobra dues.
Yeah, he has to leave.
Yeah, he has to leave. But would that have ending of happening to him? Would that have redeemed it a little bit for you?
Yeah, me personally, I think it would have redeemed it some. Again, it's not what I wanted, but yes, with what we got up to this point, I think that would have been a whole lot better than what we ended up getting. Yes, Chad?
I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to give you a long-winded yes, because talking about the save the cat thing. All right, so if we look at Snake Eyes, how everything about Snake Eyes is a duality, right? So he's dangerous, but he's very calm for the most part. Like in the cartoons and the comics, everything, like Snake Eyes is he's very contained, right? But he's also tragic, and he's sort of broken at the same time. And so that whole save the cat thing, in the comics, he saved Scarlet from that helicopter. Like he took that flaming jet, of aviation fuel to the face, saving her. And like that's his save the cat moment. And that's on top of all the situations that Stalker and Tommy and Snake Eyes got into in Vietnam. And it didn't even have to be Vietnam. It could be any conflict, but they showed time and again, like all three of them would lay down their life for the others at any given chance. Right. And so Snake Eyes' save the cat moment in his original history is, saving Scarlet from that helicopter when he could have just got out and she could have, just been gone. And so like
that could have been thrown into the end of the film, save her.
It could have.
Yeah.
It could have. But even if the, the MacGuffin stone like trashed his face, if he's doing something heroic, his save the cat moment in the movie, absolutely. But the way that it stands, he just lies. Like he screws everybody over the whole movie to the end. And they're like, well, Tommy used it for attack instead of defense. And again, right, we're throwing in cliches like a Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and attack, never for defense. So does a peacekeeping ninja. You got to go. Right. So like, then at that point, they're like, well, Tommy's gone. I guess you're still here,
Here's your cool ninja suit.
I'll tell you, Kevin, you were talking about that helmet. You could kind of see I was like delaminating a little bit. I knew from that first teaser poster, I was like, they're going to make that a freaking motorcycle helmet. Like, I knew it. Like, it was just searing into my brain as soon as I saw him holding it backwards like that. And I'm like, it's a motorcycle helmet. And that's exactly what it was. And then again, right, with the complexity, you have to oversimplify things. The visor coming down. I was like, I'm done. It's so Batman and Robin when he pulls out the credit card. I'm like, forget it. Like I couldn't do it. Like that part, I was literally like, I'm done. And I just want to get up and walk out.
Oh, boy, that
Yeah,
was
it's
bad.
so bad. And it's the very end. That's another one. That's a gotcha moment. The very end of the movie, and you're like,
This is how he got his costume. This is how he gets his man. Oh, no.
you had to do it at the very freaking end. No.
And
But anyway,
like,
so Kevin, there's my yes answer to you.
Gotcha. Yeah.
and like a lot of people said, we figured he probably either wouldn't get scarred, or if it happened, it would come at the very end where you get the helmet, the mask, and all, or whatever you want to call it. Because you got a pretty boy like Golding. You don't want to cover his face up for the movie because he's a good-looking guy, but
That's the reason why we did
guys.
not have Sylvester Stallone go completely hooded in his version of Judge Dredd. And he
Yes.
wasn't going to have it. He's a good-looking guy, and you want to see the hero face,
Carl
Yes.
Urban's a good-looking guy too, and he nailed it.
Yeah, he did.
yes,
He freaking nailed it. And this whole part of the conversation, right, where we're talking about would this have done this, could this have done that, and intersecting, goes back to the whole like, do you really need an origins movie of a silent character who has already been established in 2 previous movies that made money? Like Rise of Cobra made like 302, Retaliation made 376. Like they were going in this
Right.
Mm-hmm.
direction.
You're trending in the right
Paramount wanted to make a G.I. Joe 3, and it was Hasbro that said no, right? And that's been verified time and again. Like Bobby Valla, he talks about it openly while he was working on the G.I. Joe line at Hasbro. Like Hasbro wanted nothing to do with the G.I. Joe 3. And so if you're going to do a Snake Eyes origin, which they showed their version in Rise of Cobra with the children, which I thought that was a pretty good, modern interpretation. And like G.I. Joe Resolute has a different interpretation of their history. And that's all well and good. You're always going to have that. But if you're going to do an origins movie, you have no choice but to wipe out the existing, on-film history. And that kind of brings us to where we are today. Does an origins movie that was done like this, does it help or hurt the G.I. Joe brand at the end of the day? Because it didn't make Paramount money, didn't make Hasbro money. Like those toys, like they're peg warmers. Look at this, right? This is like a quarter of one wall of 4 walls, not to include my office at work. I will not touch an origins figure ever, period, paragraph. Like, you give me one for Christmas, it's going in the garbage. Like, they're crap. And like, what did it do to G.I. Joe? All that time and effort and great actors in roles? I don't know.
It's funny what you were saying about the toys, the same reason why I don't have any Star Wars sequel era toys, and I will not own a Falcon that has a square radar dish.
Yeah, when I went to Galaxy's Edge, I was like, oh, there's that rectangular dish. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. The only excuse me, the only of these origins figures I've got is my wife picked up the Storm Shadow and the Baroness figure for me.
I want Jason to answer my question though. What would have my version
Yes.
redeemed the movie somewhat in his eyes if they had my ending?
Yes, I think so. I was thinking back to the origin as told by Larry Hama in the comic books. I think your first Save the Cat movie actually happens in Vietnam. And I don't remember. I think it was Snake Eyes that saved Tommy.
Tommy saves Snake Eyes.
Or Tommy saved Snake Eyes.
Yeah,
That's
they're
right.
getting in the helicopter. It's almost like a
Mhm.
platoon moment, right? Or
Right.
kind of like Tropic Thunder, right?
Yep.
Where they're like, oh, where's 4-leaf Tayback? And he's getting all tuned up. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Snake Eyes was coming to the chopper, and Tommy and Stalker were on the skids, and
Yeah.
they start tuning up Snake Eyes, and Tommy runs out and gets it. And that's where they first see the Arashikage on
That's
Tommy's
right.
arm. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So Tommy does that Save the Cat moment for Snake Eyes, and so that kind of sets up his story a little bit. And then going to what you were saying, Kevin, yeah, definitely that scene in the helicopter when he gets his face doused in that aviation fuel that's on fire, and it burns half his face. The only concern that I have is that really was one of those moments that cemented that relationship between Scarlet and Snake Eyes, and that's I think that would be the one contingency I might consider for your story arc here.
Well, yeah, that
Kevin.
could have happened at the end of this film. He could have saved Scarlet or something, and then
Right, but
got
there was
disfigured,
nothing. There was nothing there between
Yeah.
Scarlet
And it was also
Snake
on
Eyes.
his first mission with G.I. Joe,
Mhm,
right?
mhm. Yeah.
So there-
So,
There you go.
but to your point, I think overall, yes. And there, I mean, there. I just kind of feel like Snake Eyes got off pretty easy for all the horrendous stuff that he's done throughout, his entire life up until this point. It's like Chad said, here's your superhero suit at the end of it. I think, yeah, if he would have sacrificed himself, and been damaged, that would have made more sense to why he's wearing the suit. It would have served as kind of a reminder of the choices that he made, and and choices that he's going to make moving forward. So, yeah, I think overall that's a long-winded way of saying I think you're onto something, Kevin. I just don't know if I'd want to do it in that moment or in a moment that was more centered around Scarlet.
Well, taking what Kevin said and with Jason, I think what they could have done, again, rewriting the ending so it would have worked better for me. It may not work better for the major movie audience, but they can do their whole snake pit thing because they want to do that. They set it up, so they got to do that, I guess. And then maybe the Baron or someone gets the jewel, and she goes to blast Scarlet with it because again they've got a past. Snake Eyes gets in, leaps in front of whoever saves Scarlet, and gets the blast to the face, which messes him up. Baroness escapes. And then we end the movie with Snake Eyes with his face wrapped up like we're used to seeing in the bandages. And maybe on the nightstand next to him, we see a mask that we're used to. And Scarlet talking to Snake Eyes, telling you saved my life. I thank you for that. I think you should join our G.I. Joe team, and kind of end it there. But I don't think the movie company, and I don't know if the fans in general would have wanted it to go out with the hero being damaged at the very end. I don't know how that would have went over with the general audience. But personally, I think that would have been, like Kevin said, it would have been a much more, it would have saved what Snake Eyes had been doing throughout the entire movie. It would have elevated him a little bit more than the way they left it.
I mean, it's tough though in the movie business because these actors, especially when you get the higher paid actors, they want to show their face on the screen.
Yes.
Right. So at some point you're going to have Snake Eyes in a mask full time, pretty much. So I don't know how they get around that.
Yeah,
Well, you get people like Ray Park in the first Snake Eyes movie or the first G.I. Joe movie. I mean, Ray Park, he's a great martial artist. He did Darth Maul, which was fully make-upped. He
And
did
Toad
Snake
from
Eyes
X-Men.
before the
he's
entire
Toad.
time. Toad. Well, Toad, you saw a little bit of his face. He had a lot of makeup on, but we did see him to an extent. But yeah, movies like Star Wars, where he had total makeup on. G.I. Joe, where he had the mask on the entire time. There are actors out there that can do a phenomenal job and don't have the I can't think of what I'm looking for, but where they have to show their pretty face. I mean, there are actors out there.
People talk about fan service like fan service is a bad thing, right? But
Correct.
if you look at it, what was the payoff of The Force Awakens? Luke Skywalker, right?
Han Solo.
The
Han
payoff?
Solo.
No.
The Millennium
Han Solo?
Falcon. The Millennium Falcon.
But the payoff at the end, right, where she finds him and he
Yeah.
turns and he doesn't say anything, like people did not stop talking about that moment.
Yeah.
Like they got butts in seats for The Last Jedi based on that cliffhanger ending.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, so the general audience may not have liked the fact that Henry Golding got his face tuned up at the end of his G.I. Joe Origins movie. But
G.I. Joe.
but if it makes the overall story and that character arc better, and the general audience is seeing a movie that if they know nothing about this guy's history, like, well, how does it even hurt it though? I mean, it's just like a rhetorical question, but it doesn't hurt the film. At best, it raises it up a little.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because I was wondering, because personally, I would have loved to see that much more than what we got. But again, I'm a big, goober for Snake Eyes and G.I. Joe, and, seeing things more comic oriented, if you will.
You could have condensed this whole movie to Acts 1 and Act 2, right? Then it gets jacked up by the Infinity Stone. They take Scarlet to wherever, silent interlude, Act 3. People would have lost their minds.
It's interesting. There's a lot of, and I've used the term connective tissue before, but parallels with the sequel trilogy for Star Wars regarding this particular movie. Mm-hmm. And that is the big question that I actually had to ask myself, that after I went in with Star Wars sequel trilogy, I went in with blinders thinking there could be no bad Star Wars. And it wasn't until after the Last Jedi, and I had bought the video, and I hadn't watched the video for like 3 months. I just did it because I'm a Star Wars completist. Sure. I'm like, why am I not watching this movie? And I realized, I realized this for this G.I. Joe Snake Eyes movie too, is that the big question is, who was this movie made for? Was it made for the 40-something, 50-something people that went through the birth of this new G.I. Joe period in the 80s with Larry Hama and the action figures and the comics and all that now have disposable income and want to spend money? Or is it made for this new generation of kids that may experience this movie for the first time and enjoy it and hoping to get more out of it? It's the same thing I realized with the sequel trilogy in Star Wars, is that these aren't made for me. I mean, one of their main characters, Kylo Ren, says, "Let the past die." I mean, you're not showing any love to the prequel trilogy, the prequel or the original trilogy people here. You're killing them off. You have a whole Star Wars land that has nothing to do with anything except the sequel trilogy. I had to realize this is for people that are younger than me. They're going to become invested with these characters. But unfortunately, I just don't think they're going to get that with a Snake Eyes or a now G.I. Joe movie that is going to be an offshoot of this. So I don't know.
Well, ask the same question, Kevin. And I have a harder time finding that they're aiming it for the new audience, because and I'm looking at, again, just like G.I. Joe in the 80s, G.I. Joe, the cartoon, the comic book, was there to sell toys. Look at the toys they have out now. All they've got is the classified figures for the Snake Eyes movie. They're the 6-inch, 12-inch figures where they are.
6-inch, yeah, 1/12 scale.
6-inch. The 6-inch figures, they're $20 a pop. Is this made for kids? I mean, because, like I say, back when we were kids, you could buy, a G.I. Joe figure for a couple bucks. And that's why they had this cartoon, the comic book. They got more money from it, but it also aimed it at these kids to get these kids to buy the toys. It's hard. Maybe I'm wrong because I'm broke, but it seems like it's hard for me for a kid to get his parents to give him $20. Well, here's $20 for one figure. Well, you're going to need at least a Cobra and a Joe to fight. Okay, that's $40. The price point of the toys, to me, kind of says, well, they're looking more for me and you.
Well, they're also releasing a movie with very dark tones and F-bombs, right? So we kind of talked about that, like the tone deaf. And the figures are definitely made for the adult collector. I mean, yes, to keep any line or brand solvent, you have to get new people into it. That's just reality. It doesn't matter what it is. But at the end of the day, when you look at classified series wave like 1 and 2, like that Duke, the Scarlet, everybody except for Destro and Snake Eyes had some kind of, like, they all have Nerf guns. They're legitimate, like, scans of Nerf guns, right? Hasbro owns Nerf. Roadblock has that weird Men in Black gun, and people bought them, right? Because G.I. Joe fans are a very interesting group. right? Very loyal, but also in the same way, the attention spans aren't always there. The kids are us, bro. Yeah, absolutely, Sean. But it's one of those things like you see the shift in classified because a lot of people didn't like the weird gold shin armor, the asymmetrical armor. Like, are you trying to make this Power Rangers? Are you trying to make it something else? Why do they have Nerf guns? And now look at that Snake Eyes you just held up, Aaron, right? Like, look at that versus like Wave 1 Scarlet or Duke, right? Like, it's a complete 180. And they know that it's us fans with all this stuff that keep G.I. Joe going. Like, the only thing that ever killed G.I. Joe was Hasbro. Like, they killed G.I. Joe. They made it a Toys R Us exclusive when Toys R Us was going under. They didn't want to make a G.I. Joe 3 when everybody else was behind it. They killed the club line. They killed their own con. You know, like, they realized that Hasbro was the detriment to G.I. Joe. Nothing else. So,
yeah, it's funny because I just wanted to cleanse the palate and I watched G.I. Joe Retaliation, and that is a good G.I. Joe movie. It really is.
Yeah.
It is surprisingly how good that is. And it makes me, want to watch the original one a little bit more because it sets up a little bit, but it's a little more grounded in reality. But when it comes to the classified series, and the reason why I think a lot has to do with Hasbro going with the Black Series figure for Star Wars, because those were very profitable and make a lot of extra money off of those. And a lot of the toys for kids are now larger figures. When you look at the Transformers and the reissue of the He-Mans now and stuff like that, they're going with that kind of like $20 a shot figure now, because it's a little more of a cash grab.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll totally agree with you. I mean, I will always be a 118 scale guy. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's my bread and butter. I mean, I do have, I don't want to say all of, but I've divorced myself from, I have to own everything. I don't believe in that. Otherwise, we'd all go broke or insane trying to buy everything.
Or both.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you start adding new scales in, right? Super 7 has the 7-inch line coming out, and those are like Sunbow accurate, and they look amazing.
Yes.
But I just, at the end of the day, if you can't divorce yourself from having everything, you're just going to drown.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to pay your electricity.
Yeah, I love those. That's those Hasbro accurate ones you're talking about. But yeah, they're a little pricey for what they are, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had the extra disposable income, I would be buying them because, yeah, they look magnificent. But, yeah, I just don't have the money. Like you said, I either go broke, go crazy, or, just realize I can't afford everything. So I wasn't planning on collecting the classified line, but here I have most of them. So,
yeah, my wife and I, we were in a comic shop in Albuquerque, which is a couple hours north of us. And she was just like, "Oh, these are G.I. Oh, you don't have these?" And she took like every classified figure they had and put them on the counters. Like, well, I guess I'm in that now. So it was just kind of by default. I was just in on that line. But yeah, Kevin, talking about what you were saying with the first two movies, right? Like, so Retaliation and Rise of Cobra. Rise of Cobra has its failures, right? So it has the accelerator suits, and there's some stories that like the director had been pushing a script about this elite unit that uses suits like that called Accelerator. And so that's kind of how we put it in there or whatever. I can't confirm or deny that. But Rise of Cobra also, when you pay attention to it, it has a lot of nods to the entire history of G.I. Joe, going back to the flocked hair, the jokes about Kung Fu grip, the reason why Duke has the scar on his face, because when they first made G.I. Joe and they didn't want people to copy it, the thumbnails were on the inside and they had the scar on the face. Like all those little nods that you see in Rise of Cobra, like they at least kind of knew, they sort of paid attention or, did some research. So there are some good parts.
Yeah, no, I'm glad, Kevin, that you said, that you liked Retaliation, because I hear a lot of people online say that was a horrible movie, and I don't see that.
I don't hear that anymore at all. I think that when when we go in with our our GI Joe movies, we just take what we can get, you know.
Right.
And that's just a good movie, you know, and it brings it back down to a basis. Even though they killed some people off, you have a small group, you know, working
Right.
together. And Snake Eyes and the Ninja Clan were part of it too, which was nice. And you still had Zartan, you know, being the cause of you know, the Master's death, and now he's the president. And you got Firefly in there, and
Much
you know,
more Cobra Commander accurate look.
yeah, I mean,
That
there was
Cobra
just
Commander was way better. Like he
And
did
you
not
had-
play around.
and
The
you had the
bubble head.
hiss, you had the hiss tanks too, which were
Mhm.
looking kind of cool. And
Yes.
the fact that it wasn't actually shot at Fort Sumter, I didn't have a problem with it. You know,
Yeah, no, Retaliation, I thought so far is the best G.I. Joe movie we've gotten as far as live action.
That Jinx Snake Eyes scene where he has to pluck the hair,
Yes.
that scene's rad. And I thought RZA was a good blind master.
Yeah.
Like I like the guy in the Snake Eyes movie as blind master. He was good too, but I thought RZA did a good job.
Yeah, when I heard RZA was going to be blind
just
master,
so you
I
guys
wasn't-
know, it's RZA. You guys say it
RZA.
right.
Oh,
It's
sorry.
RZA.
Is it?
Yeah, it's RZA.
I don't know.
Whatever
I don't
it
know
is.
these things.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
going back to his music days, that's what he's known as, RZA.
RZA. When I first heard, I wasn't quite sure, but yeah, no, I thought he did a fantastic job. I thought Retaliation was the G.I. Joe movie. I mean, yes, there was mistakes here and there, of course. It wasn't perfect, but I thought it was the G.I. Joe movie so far.
Was that the one with Bruce Willis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
As
Yeah, I
General
like
Joe
that.
Colton.
Yeah, I like.
But
that.
like, you know, Flint, DJ Contra as Flint, and you're like, how is this guy Flint? You know what I mean? Because like in the G.I. Joe hierarchy, like it's Hawk, Duke, Flint. And then in this movie, like he's just like, oh, but I don't want to go fight this fight. And Roadblock's like, get over here. Let's go. You know, so
But Adrian
Whatever.
Padalecki is as Lady J.
I tell you what, man, I wanted to see the spears. I wanted to see the spear gimmick at least once. You know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's true.
And over in the chat, we have Sean piping in saying he loves those hiss tanks. Definitely need to get one or two. Of
Yeah,
course.
I know, Sean. Like he and I talk about it all the time. I got like 5 of them down here on the floor.
That was like Jared and the Sky Strikers.
That HasLab Sky Striker. I just can't. I
So
can't pull the trigger on that thing.
we got what, 3 live action GI Joe ish films, and we got at least one good one. All right, you know, what's that
Could be
batting
worse,
average?
could be better.
You know, the kind of going off of that, the way I see GI Joe movies is, and I was talking to my wife about this, is the way that I see Batman movies. Right? So you have a lot of Batman movies. My favorite Batman movie is Mask of the Phantasm. That is my hands down favorite Batman film. And it's based off the animated series. My favorite G.I. Joe film is Resolute. And
Yeah.
like I can watch Resolute all the time. I can watch Mask of the Phantasm all the time.
Well, that's why whenever I say, you know, the best G.I. Joe movie live, I keep appending with live action because, yes, I agree. And most people, I think, do agree that Resolute is the best G.I. Joe movie. But as far as live action, I think Retaliation did a much better job.
Yeah,
And real quick,
I would give it to Retaliation.
earlier in the chat, we weren't talking about, I want to bring this up real quick. Lee Sharp mentioned that Scarlett was the chick from Home and Away, an Australian soap opera actress. She looks pretty perfect for Scarlett. So I just
She
want
was
to
in
throw
like
that out
some
there.
Babysitter Club movies or something.
I'm not sure on that, but
She was in a bunch of other stuff.
She was
Samara
in
Weaving?
Guns Akimbo from the guy that played Harry Potter, and she was kick ass in that. But she also played one of the kids of Bill and Ted in the new Bill and Ted movie. She
Oh,
was,
okay.
one of the kids there, and then
Face
she
the
was in
Music.
this- yeah, and then she was in a movie called Ready or Not, where she was a bride and she didn't realize what she was getting into. So
then from the chat we have Lee saying that hopefully getting that Lady J show. That'd be nice.
Yeah, the supposed Lady J series on Amazon.
And then Lee chimes in and says, yes, she was in the Babysitters Club. Though he's saying he hasn't seen them. Sure you haven't, Lee.
Lies. Hey, I have a daughter. It's
Yeah,
cool.
lie to
Like,
kid.
I got to get out of jail free cards.
But yeah, no. But then we jump out to the movie though, Snake Eyes. It finishes up with let's finish that out real quick since we haven't talked about it really. We talked about it a little bit, I guess. We kind of skated over with our own version of the ending. So we have Sen stripping Tommy of his birthright, saying he'll never lead the clan because he used the jewel. He took off, pissed off that they forsake him because of what Snake Eyes did. And yeah, like someone said earlier, yeah, Tommy takes off. So like, oh, you're still here, Snake Eyes. Sure, even though you caused all this, you caused it. So Tommy had to use the jewel. Yeah, you were tight with you still. We're still cool. So that's the end of the movie. And then there's a post-credit scene or mid-credit scene where we have Tommy on a jet with the Baroness, where she recruits him into Cobra, and he renames himself Storm Shadow. I'm gonna give some thoughts on that real quick, and I'll let you guys have a go at it. So, Cobra was the reason that the gem was stolen. That he had the jewel, the MacGuffin was stolen. So, and he had to use the MacGuffin to fight off what Cobra started. Yet he joins up with Cobra after he leaves his tribe. I've got problems with that personally. I don't see the logic there. I mean, I know in the comic, Cobra was behind him getting blamed for the Hardmaster getting killed. Again, spoilers for anyone who hasn't read the comic. I don't know what you're listening to this for. But if you're listening to this, I'm sure you've read these books.
Yeah,
but
40 years too late. You know.
But yeah, Cobra was behind the Hardmaster dying and Tommy getting blamed for it. And he joined up with Cobra there to find out who was behind the death of the Hardmaster. So there's a reason there why he joins Cobra.
Yeah, then it got a little convoluted with some mind control stuff and things.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other story.
But yeah, that was the premise.
Getting shot in the back on the beach, coming back from the dead after he became part of Serpentor. Yeah.
See, I didn't mind that, but that's that story.
No, I love that Serpentor backstory. I'm getting off topic.
But my question is, why Cobra is the reason he is not leading the clan that he was destined to lead. Why join up with Cobra? Did I miss something on that, or just more bad writing? Does anyone have a thought on that?
Well, are you talking about the end scene where
the
Baroness
mid-credit
is on the
scene.
plane and stuff?
Yeah.
I just, it's one of those tropes where, someone wants to use someone and they can get him at their vulnerable moment, I guess. And she's going to, make him an offer he can't refuse, so to speak. So I guess, but I just real quick, I was going over some IMDb trivia and I'm trying to remember if I missed this or can't remember this from the comics. But the name Tommy calls himself, which is Storm Shadow that we all know and love, says is a direct translation of Arashikage.
Arashi Kage is Storm Shadow.
Yeah,
it is literal translation. That's why when he's like, call me Storm Shadow, it's like, that was already your name, dude.
The other thing too was, and I couldn't remember this, was Tommy's grandmother Sen in the movie, played by Iri Ishihata, is based on Obasan, quote, demon granny, Storm Shadow's aunt in the comics.
Correct.
Do you guys remember that in the comics? I can't remember that.
That's more of the I don't want to say rebooted, the when Larry Hama brought it back at IDW.
Okay.
As the continuation.
So it's not in the Marvel run then.
No, if I'm not mistaken, she doesn't show up until the IDW Real American Hero run.
So Jason will be getting into that soon then.
Yes.
that Hama IDW run is pretty good. It's pretty good.
I'm referring to the Real American Hero run that Larry's writing.
Right.
Yeah, with IDW.
Well, because there's also the IDW that Jason they're covering, which was like kind of a reboot.
Oh yeah, no. Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah, that was it started with Image, the Blaylock.
Yeah.
Blaylock series, and now it's
which came out in 2001.
Yes.
Yeah, something around that time.
It came out right after 9/11.
Yeah, it was actually Jared and Pat that cover that show. I've guested on it. That's why I get Bravo Team. If their guest dropped out, they call me up and I jump on. So that's where the Bravo Team comes from. But yeah, I read a little bit with Larry Hama returned. Didn't stick with it just because I just don't have time with all the other stuff that I'm reading. But it seemed pretty good.
Yeah, so the IDW's had a couple different series. There was like the reboots of the series, and then they also had they started off with Dan during Free Comic Book Day a while back.
Mhm.
They had issue 255 and a half. Quit looking at each other. They had issue 255 and a half of A Real American Hero, where Larry brought it back and continued on from what he was doing previously. And he's brought a lot of stuff from the stuff even that we're talking about, Kevin, is brought back into the current book. And that's where Granny Demon has shown up.
Okay.
And then real quick over in the chat, Sean has he said, talking about Storm Shadow working for Cobra. He said, wasn't he recruited by Cobra Commander to be his personal bodyguard? Yes. In the early issues of G.I. Joe that we're covering, Cobra Commander did hire Storm Shadow, or somehow, I'm not quite sure how they approached him, but Cobra Commander did mention that Storm Shadow was his personal bodyguard.
That was
So,
his
yeah,
position in Cobra's. He was Storm
Yeah.
Shadow, or he was Coco's bodyguard.
But yeah, he was working for Cobra Commander. Again, if you haven't read these issues or if you don't remember them, that's what we're covering right now on the main show. He's just there to find out who actually killed the Hard Master that he got the blame for.
Yeah,
So
who
he
framed him?
was Cobra Commander's personal bodyguard.
So going back to the original question, it's just kind of the, scoop somebody up at their lowest point,
Right.
because then they're a little more susceptible to do what you want them to do.
Right.
But I kind of got the feeling that he was doing it to follow the trail to like whoever's in charge of Cobra that made all those decisions that took his life away. So kind of a quasi Zartan situation, like
Okay.
somebody killed my uncle and framed me. In the comics, it's an arrow because Tommy's a bow and arrow guy. He's not a sword guy.
Right.
In Rise of Cobra, it's his sword, right?
Right.
But it's not a Rashikage steel. I just kind of got that feeling that it was sort of that vein where he was just following the trail of who did this to him.
That makes sense. I can see that now.
But again, full disclosure, I hate the part where he's like, "Call me Storm Shadow." It's like, already did, but just in Japanese.
Yeah. But I like how they did that in the comic. Again, going back to the comic book, 'cause it's the best. When they were talking, they were saying his last name was unpronounceable, but it translates. I do like that a little bit better than the way that they did it in this movie. But
Yeah. Because the comics was more of a chicken and the egg, like he was the character Storm Shadow
Right.
before the backstory.
right.
Yeah.
And just that's what I was going to show you. Storm Shadow is awesome. And Lee also popped in there, the unrelated, the 6-inch
Yes.
Skeletron figure. is just got a-
Skeletron. Awesome. Thank you, Lee. He and I have been talking about that for a while. So that Skeletron company is doing that new RoboSkull on Kickstarter,
Okay.
right? So the RoboSkull Mark II, if you know anything about Action Force and the RoboSkull. And the last two unlocks were a 1/18 scale Skeletron figure and a 1/12 scale Skeletron figure. And he and I have been talking just endlessly like, I need those Skeletron figures.
Right on.
That's awesome.
So I forgot to throw that in there real quick. But that is Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins. Any other thoughts on the ending that we haven't covered? Chad, any other thoughts on the ending that we kind of glossed over, that we went over the ending I would have preferred instead of what we got? Any other thoughts on the ending?
Which ending? The ending or the stinger in the jet?
No, well, the ending where Tommy gets called out, said you're never going to lead this clan. Well, if you don't want me, I don't want you. I'm out of here.
Well,
And then they
again,
go ahead
like,
and take guys around the guy that caused all this. So you're all right after all.
yeah, while we had talked about like the whole show, it's just kind of those cliches, those tropes, like the Jedi, right? Jedi use the Force, knowledge and defense, otherwise you're going to become a Sith, right? And then what does Tommy do, right? So he gets thrust into this situation where he has to do what he has to do. And then it's
Right.
like, oh, well, you use the Force for attack and not knowledge and defense. You got to go. So now he becomes a Sith, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, they had to have some kind of vehicle to get him to be the bad guy,
Right.
which he was never the bad guy. And then that flows with every other history of Tommy Arashikage. Like, he was never a bad guy. He just got put in situations where he had to kind of react to them.
Right. I mean, the
and
cartoon was
just,
a
just
bad-
survive.
but the cartoon we didn't really get any.
Yeah, but the
back-
the Sunbow continuity is the Sunbow continuity.
Yeah,
That's
but
just
no,
it
in the
is
comic.
what it is.
yeah.
Well,
he's
Chad-
really
It's kind of interesting though, Chad, because you were saying before about how with Snake Eyes, the story was carrying Snake Eyes instead of Snake Eyes driving the story, and it seems like now we've got the stories carrying Storm Shadow. I don't know. It's just interesting. Interesting linking it back to your original thought. It seems like there's a reversal at this point in time, where story was carrying Snake Eyes, and Storm Shadow was more driving the story, and then at the end, it's completely flipped, and now Storm Shadow is off for his revenge, and Snake Eyes has given up his quest for revenge, we think, and is thrown in his lot with the clan.
And to kind of add to what you're saying, pointing that out, I had the feeling, granted, I'm not a writer at all, right? I'm just not. I'm just freaking geek. I had a feeling watching it, it felt like they wrote it backwards. Like they knew this is what the end was going to be. So we're just going to what we call backwards plan, right? We're just going to backwards plan it. As all that unfolded at the end, I was like, okay, so this was what they always knew. And so it almost felt like it was written backwards.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a
I
really
can
good
see that.
observation.
they knew where they wanted the characters to end up, so they had to get them to that point somehow.
Yeah. And that was just my initial perception of it.
And real quick from the chat, we have Lee. It needed an end credit scene. Lee needed something G.I. Joe, but we got nothing. Pretty much.
We had Scarlet in the file. It
Yeah.
At least it did something. And again, that kind of ties into it feels like it was written backwards.
Right.
Well, I forget what you said it though, but would a good end credit scene would have been, if Scarlet had been captured and then end credit, roll credits, and then he's just jumping out the back of a C-130.
Mhm.
Could you imagine seeing silent interlude in live action?
Oh God, I know.
Yeah.
God, just like how awesome that would be, especially if it was like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon style, just that fast running.
Yeah.
Man.
That would have been, or even allude to it, like Jason was just saying, that have him jumping out, end with him jumping out of the back of the ship.
Yeah, just smashing that button on the ramp, and he's like,
Yeah,
I'm
jumping
out.
off the
Yeah,
end credits, go to black, cut, credits.
Yeah.
And then they could have started the next movie with that. I think it would have been a whole lot better. But
it's kind of the whole thing. Like G.I. Joe, as a brand, is so rich, right? When you talk about everything needs to be diverse now, everything needs to be this, everything needs to be that, right? Like G.I. Joe was always diverse. In 1981, they were writing this female character that went to Ranger School. Like my wife is an Army infantry officer, right? And those are still rare. She's only one of like 26. And like females going to Ranger School now is still like a kind of thing. Like 6 or 7 have gone total. But in 1981, they were writing this character with Ranger School, But with this whole lean on, okay, Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes are popular. And then you get like Ninja Force and Ninja this and Ninja that. You got Red Ninjas and you got these ninjas and Cyber Ninjas. Like everything just became Ninja, and now we're here,
yeah,
The only characters that we can market in G.I. Joe is frickin' Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, right? they made a live action Aquaman movie, right? Aquaman was like the butt of every frickin' joke about the Super Friends or the Justice League.
right.
Robot Chicken utterly just destroyed Aquaman every chance they got. And look at that movie they made,
It was funny.
Oh, yeah.
right? That movie is good. Like they made Aquaman badass. But we got to lean on Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to your point that it is so rich. I mean, between the comics and the cartoons and the live action stuff that we've had to this date. And I think that each of us probably has, like I admitted up front, I'm into the military aspect of it. I loved the first few runs, and then after a while, when it started getting a little too ninja for me and a little too sci-fi, we had like Ninja Force and all this stuff. That's when I was like, no, I'm bailing out. It's getting, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have come along now, and it's kind of corrupting my GI Joe a little bit. And so, but
Echo
you know,
Warriors.
yeah, but there's just you've got so much to choose from. It's so rich, and it just feels like this just feels like a swing and a miss to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Where's
a kind of it's a what could have been in my mind, because I was looking at the Blu-ray cover here, and on the back it says, quote, "The best GI Joe movie yet" by Joel Deckelmeyer from Screen Rant. Decided to search him, see what his deal is, like how much Joe does he know. I don't know, but he did do an exclusive interview on Screen Rant with Henry Golding. So there might be a little bit of butt kissing there. I don't know. But there was an article on how Snake Eyes creator details G.I. Joe future movie plans. And it's referring to an interview with Larry Hama, of course, who has backed this movie and has backed the differences that they decide to take in this. And he basically said, quote, "The idea was to set up all these things that could be utilized in subsequent sequels or continuations. That's why Scarlet and the Baroness are brought in. They don't play a super active part in any ongoing scenario within the movie. They are really there to tease the bigger universe for what comes next. In a movie like this, you want to establish all these things ahead of time, so next time you're ready to roll." And then they go into the poor box office performance of this, and where in the 2000s a film could be could generate a sequel just to strong home video sales. But the streaming has become a major factor and has become much harder for a film to prove itself in post-theatrical market. Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins could have performed exceptionally well on video on demand and Blu-ray for future plans to move forward. And then they do mention that it's not the end of the G.I. Joe franchise, a television series based on the character Lady J on Amazon, and a follow-up film to G.I. Joe Retaliation titled G.I. Joe Ever Vigilant still remains in active development at Paramount Pictures. So there you go. But and this was dated September 28th of this year.
Well, apparently they also still have a Mask movie in development at Paramount, and that's been since 2013. But also the Snake Eyes movie was in development hell for a long time too.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I'm still waiting for a Flash movie that's been in development on and off since like 2010 or 2008 or something like that. I think I first heard rumblings about a Flash movie, maybe before that.
Well, that Flash movie is coming. I don't know if you've seen anything about that, but
finally, yeah. I won't get into that because I don't care for this Flash, but that's another story entirely. But no, that's everyone's they're talking about. Well, DC's got this movie. With DC, I want to wait until the movie actually comes out because again, they've been talking about a a Flash movie since early 2000s. So yeah. I'll wait till it shows up.
Kevin, kind of going off what you were talking about you got to set up the larger world and do this. And I think I just knocked a toy over behind me. You always hear these things about, well, we got to support it or they won't make another, right? Like you hear that in like every fandom. Well, if you don't support it, they're not going to do it again. If you don't buy the toys, they're not going to make more toys. If you don't watch this movie and say it's great, they're not going to make any more movies. It's like, I get that thought process to an extent, but do we want quantity or do we want quality? And that's just kind of what I always ask myself. It's like, well, sure, I could go out and support whatever I want, right? But we speak with our dollars. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, like it, love it, hate it, whatever. I mean, this movie only made $40 million. I mean, they put it on demand, lickety split for that reason, because they were trying to make up revenue on this movie. It only made 37 million in theaters, and it made the rest up like online on demand or whatever.
Estimated streaming. 88 million budget, gross worldwide 40 million.
Yep, with a break even of 165 to 170 is what I researched. And that's crazy. Like, did you guys see that Battleship movie, 2012? Yeah. Battleship? Yeah. That movie made $303 million.
Yeah.
The Batman and Robin. Right, and I was already talking some trash on Batman and Robin a little while ago. How much do you think Batman and Robin made? About $300 million. It's like there's a lot of movies out there that made way more. And I know people say, you know, oh, the pandemic and this, that, and the other thing, but there are a lot of other movies that came out during the pandemic that made money.
That was the first movie I went to see in the theaters during, when they started reopening theaters during the pandemic. And as I walked out of there, I was like, man, I'm gonna be pissed if I caught COVID watching this movie.
It wasn't the first movie that I saw in theaters, but I also have a caveat to that because I had just come home from deployment, and I came home from deployment while all this stuff was going on. I was actually overseas while it happened, and so came home to it. So like we came home to a different world. But I believe it was the second movie I saw in the theater after all that started.
So you said you're 3 hours from Albuquerque. That puts you like Fort Bliss. Is that where
Yep.
you're at now? Okay.
Yeah, roughly. Mhm.
All right.
So we've kind of talked about the Snake Eyes movie. I'm sorry, Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins movie. In case you can't quite make it out, we're whispering G.I. Joe. So, Chad, any other thoughts on the movie that we haven't covered yet? Any other comments you wanted to make or anything?
I think the biggest legacy of this movie is what it did to like the fans, like the fan base, where they started getting ugly with each other. Like, oh, you don't like this movie because you're a racist. If you don't support this movie, you're not a real G.I. Joe fan. You know, like it brought out ugliness in people that wasn't necessary at all. Like you can like a movie or not like a movie. That's like saying you didn't like Rocky V, you're not a Rocky fan. You know, a lot of people say Rocky V is like the worst Rocky movie. But, you know, the ugliness that came out of this movie, like just fans against fans and just openly like, oh, well, yeah, you don't like it because you're racist. It's like, well, now you're just going to start calling people like, it's a movie, man. Like, just calm down. Like, I don't have to like the movie. Like, you know, like questioning people's G.I. Joe cred because they don't like a movie. That's my biggest thing with this movie. Like, I'll probably never watch it again. If I do, it's going to be one of those random, like it's on TV and I just want to laugh at it, like Batman or Robin or something. You know, I just want a couple of chuckles. Maybe I'll throw it on, but it has no bearing on me. Like as a movie lover, as a lifelong G.I. Joe fan, you know, since 1982, I've been, you know, hard in the paint for Joe. But you know, and then Hama's comments, you know, whatever. He's the godfather of G.I. Joe, and I don't want to fall into what I don't like, where people are, you know, talking bad about people. But you know, his comments were unnecessary. And then we talked about the sequel trilogy, Kevin, and we're kind of tying in Rian Johnson and how he acted towards fans. You know, like completely unnecessary stuff.
Oh yeah,
unprofessional, uncalled for. And the thing with like Joe fans, just like getting at each other like, oh, if you don't buy that dirty milk water looking freaking mummy Storm Shadow, you're not a G.I. Joe fan. I'm like, why? That figure sucks. Like, I'm not going to buy that thing. You know, and that's my beef with this movie. Aside from everything that we talked about, the lazy writing, the stupid cliches, the motorcycle helmet, it's just what it did to G.I. Joe as a brand and what it did to the fan base. Well, fans did to the fan base, really.
Yeah, unfortunately, I
don't
know if you really lay that on this movie because you find that with every franchise or every fan base. You get this. You're talking about Star Wars. I mean, me personally, I enjoyed the sequels for what they were. I enjoyed the prequels for what they were. But yeah, you get people out there in Star Wars. You get people out there. I'm sure James Bond is the same way. Well, you know, if you don't like these movies, you're not a real fan. Or if you do like these movies, you're not a real fan. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about before we got on the mic about, you know, the whole Black Lives Matter and how I say, you know, the main problem is hatred and people just wanting to hate on somebody for whatever the reason it is. That is part of the problem is that, yeah, you just got too many people. And I'm not going to put the internet down because I'm a computer guy, but the internet, especially when you get like Facebook with everybody on it, it allows, the good thing is it allows everyone to have a voice, but the bad side is the same thing, that it allows everyone to have a voice, and people get to voice their opinion no matter how arrogant or, wrong-headed it may be. And yes, they should be able to voice their opinion, but
That's for you, Kevin. Okay, get out of here.
and for
That's
those
Sorry.
listening to this is not actually watching the video, Cobra Commander apparently was paying a visit to Chad and peered in over his shoulder.
Hey,
I'm
at
sorry.
least we finally got a Cobra-looking character into a discussion with Snake Eyes. G.I. Joe.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just a little moment of levity. My wife's just like creeping in the room in her Cobra Commander outfit.
That was very good. I like that.
That was great. That was
nice.
awesome.
Aaron, I totally agree with what you're saying. The internet does give everyone a voice. Maybe not everybody should have a voice, at least readily available all the time, right? Think before you speak, right? Pause before you hit send. I don't blame the movie for the vitriol. I don't. I'm just saying it's causality.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I don't blame the movie for it.
And real quick, before I continue on with you guys, get some thoughts real quick from the chat. We had Lee. You can't go wrong keeping close to source material, G.I. Joe, DC, Marvel, whatever. You can't go far, And I agree. There's a reason that G.I. Joe's been popular since 1982. This version of G.I. Joe, even though Hasbro, Marvel has let go of it on and off, it's still a very popular DC Comics. I mean, Superman has been popular for 70, 80 years for a reason. Spider-Man has been popular, for a reason. Everyone says, well, comics are goofy. Comics is what kept these things alive. So, I mean, if you go too far abreast from, again, in my opinion, if you go too far abreast from there, that's where you start running into problems. And they say, well, you want to make it accessible to newer people. We were all newer people at one point. I mean, I don't know if any of us was born with a comic book in your hand. So, I mean, we all had to get into it at some point. We all became normal people, or came from normal people to become what we are now. I mean, I'm doing podcasts on these. We got Kevin with all his DVDs behind him. We get Chad sitting there with the flag behind him. There's a reason, and then we got Weasel Skull over there talking James Bond and all of his loves. I mean,
the cats.
And the cats, yeah, there's a reason that these things have been popular and have caught on and stayed in the eye of people for so long. And yeah, and I agree definitely that if you start veering away from it to get a bigger audience, I think you lose it somewhere. And that's another gripe I have, which I don't know really appropriate for here, but I'm going to say it anyways, because it's my show. I can do what I want. No, a lot of people say, when they make these changes to comics because they want to get new readers in. Well, yeah, you have to get, like someone said earlier, maybe it was Kevin, someone said earlier, you need to get new blood in. You need to get new readers, new viewers, new people in. Otherwise, we're going to die eventually. And someone needs to be able to read them.
But you need to be able to do it without alienating the fans that were there
Yes.
from the beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. Yes, if you make a change to a character take me for instance, you make a change to a character, so I no longer like that character, I'm going to stop reading it. Well, these changes, this new guy, I've been reading comics, and I wasn't even young when I started with comics. I started buying comics when I was like 16, 17 years old. I'm now 51. I've been buying comics on and off this entire time. If you make a change, it's going to make me go away from those books to get these newer readers in. But if these newer readers don't stick around, then what's the point of attracting them if they're only there for the short term or for the, Snake Eyes Asian now. Let's check this out. Okay, I'm done with it now. They don't stick around because they don't like it overall. What's the use in making these changes? But that's just my own thought on it. Real quick, before I can, totally different subject. Lee said that he's going to watch Marvel's Shang-Chi later. Hopefully that's better. Personally, I liked Shang-Chi. I don't know if you guys have seen that one yet.
Shang-Chi
went
was
to
great. It was awesome.
I went to the theater and watched it at the 4K or whatever it is, 4X, whatever, where the seats move and they spray water in your face and all that. And
What?
I enjoy the whole total surround sound, and they get wind blowing by you, and I enjoyed the movie.
That sounds like a Disneyland ride.
Almost.
Last night I chuckled because my wife was like, "Oh, you want to watch the Ten Rings movie?" And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Shang-Chi," and I was like, "Yeah, okay." But I got nothing against Shang-Chi. I'm just not like the biggest Marvel comics guy or Marvel superheroes guy, and I never have been. But I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then we watched Jungle Cruise instead.
Jungle Cruise good?
Jungle Cruise is good, especially if you're like a Disney Parks guy. Like, man, they have the train in there. Like, he does the backside of water joke.
Yeah.
It's so good. I like it.
The wife and I started watching that last night, and then we turned it off because I had to get up early this morning. But
I really liked it. Like,
Yeah,
I thought it was better than the first Pirates of the Caribbean, which is the best Pirates of the Caribbean. That's just me, but individual results may vary, right?
right.
Yeah.
But anyways, so for our left off, Jason, final thoughts on the movie overall? Anything that you haven't said that you want to comment on?
God help me. I'm going to quote my brother who said something wise to me one time. And
I don't know if I believe that.
I
Jared
know,
saying
I know.
wise.
This is pretty
I
wise.
don't know.
I
See,
thought,
Kevin's busting. Kevin's leaving. He's laughing so hard.
because we
Later.
we were talking about when we interact with listeners to our show on social media and stuff, not everybody agrees with what we say, and we're always pretty careful to as Jared advised me, this is going to be somebody's favorite movie,
Mhm.
and we pan it pretty hard, and I think justifiably so in most cases. But somebody's going to really love this movie, and it's okay. I mean, like I said, it's not my cup of tea because we got away from the Snake Eyes origin as I remember Snake Eyes, right?
Yep.
Again, doesn't bother me if they cast an Asian or whomever, as long as it's a good actor and they get that core element right. Stranger in a strange land, becoming a member of this family, actually becoming greater than the person who he's closest to, that causes tension, and then things escalate from there. And there's a couple ways we could go about it, and I just didn't feel that. So that's just me. I think it's sad if people, let their love or indifference for this movie fuel how they think about other people on social media. I don't know. I try to tend my social media pretty well. I don't spend a lot of time on there, and if I see negativity stuff, I just don't engage with it. Generally speaking, just move on, and I just try to use it to support, like your shows, Aaron, and fellow podcasters and friends that we've made along the way. But I guess at the end of the day, I would just say to people who are listening to this, if you like the movie, that's okay. I don't mean to poo-poo on it or anything like that. And there were elements of it that I did like, that I did enjoy. I thought the action scenes were pretty good. Some of the scenes were pretty fun. The water scene, I think Chad talked about at length. I think, that's just good. That's just a good scene. Well written, well directed, well performed. So there are elements in here that I really did like. So just take that, take what I'm saying as a grain of salt. If you like the movie, if you enjoyed it, good for you. It just, like Chad was saying, I probably won't end up watching it again. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
And Kevin, final thoughts on the movie?
So this brings up an interesting conundrum that I've learned years and years ago when it comes to movies coming from a book source, and how mostly when it hits a movie, it's a little underwhelming if you were invested into the written book or comic book in this case. And I go back to the Harry Potter books, fantastic. There was a lot of criticism on some of the films because the translation wasn't done well, but I realized I have to separate myself and enjoy the movies for what they are as a movie. I remember, having to do that with one of my favorite books that I have an audio and I love it, and that's Ready Player One. Having to really realize when that movie was going to come out, directed by Steven Spielberg, there's no way they could do a good translation of that book into a film, and he kind of did his own vision of it. And for me to enjoy that film, I had to put what I knew about the movie and just put it completely aside and enjoy it for what it is. And it's one of the reasons why I can enjoy the Marvel movies, the MCU, from a certain point of view that a lot of people who read the comics have issues with when there's a certain problem with a certain film. Because I never read a lot of those superhero comics. G.I. Joe and the Star Wars comics were my first comics, and I wasn't really a big superhero fan reading comic book person. I liked other type of comics. That's why I dove into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. I wasn't into the superhero stuff. But when superhero stuff started becoming a thing in movies, I got invested in that. So not being invested in the written material allowed me to enjoy a movie like Iron Man 3. Where it got blasted by comic book fans because of how the Mandarin was portrayed or not portrayed, depending on how you look at it. So when it come to this film, I knew that there was going to be changes. You just had the feeling, you knew, it wasn't going to give it. So I have to base this movie on its own. And also the other thing I base movies on is rewatchability. Am I going to want to watch this movie again? And I had my first big test with the Marvel Universe with Eternals. I didn't walk out of that film because I felt like non-comic book readers got punished a little bit because there was nothing in there for me to really grasp onto. Not like what they did with Guardians of the Galaxy. They did that perfectly. They gave us reasons to like those characters. So I walked out of my first really big disappointment of a Marvel film with Eternals because of those particular reasons. And rewatchability. Is Snake Eyes rewatchable on its own? Not, trying to, not be invested in, or trying to separate my investment in with the comics and stuff like that. And I do find parts of it rewatchable to me. So that's why, I don't just buy the Blu-ray because I'm a completist. I am, but I want to see what else I can get out of it on rewatchability. I do plan on rewatching the Eternals when it hits Disney Plus. Maybe I'll feel different about it. To this date, I have not gone and rewatched the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. I own them because I'm a completist, but I have to judge on rewatchability. So if I want my true Snake Eyes fix, I know I can be a guest on Aaron's podcast and really just dive into it. And that's one of the reasons why I love coming on your show, Aaron, is because I get to do that. I get to relive these characters we love and why. When it comes to this film, Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins, I can find a reason to revisit it and look at it with a different lens. Like you said, Weasel, this is going to be someone's favorite movie. And I don't want to take that away from him at all. If I can go in and say I liked Iron Man 3 and be blasted by it, still not going to take away the reason why I like Iron Man 3. I like Iron Man 3 for reasons other people did not. That's a different podcast. But yes, I will rewatch it. I will revisit it.
Yeah, very good thoughts. I agree with you. And like I say, I'm anyone that knows me know I'm a book reader. I read all the time. And I know a buddy of mine at work, we talk, he's like, well, how's the book? Oh, book was pretty, this so-and-so book was pretty good. Not as good as the movie. And that's what, because again, the movie and the books are different things. Actually, verse that. How was the movie? The movie was good, but not as good as the book. And that's, like I said, the only book I think I've ran into where the movie was actually better was Fletch, the first Fletch movie. And that was, I think it was very similar to the book, but I think because Chevy Chase was the lead character, it's Chevy Chase. He made it much better. I love the Fletch movie. I read, and maybe also because, one second.
He's reaching way back on Fletch. That's way back.
Yeah.
Go to the Wayback Machine. Yeah.
Hey, while he's on pause, Kevin, I got to agree with you on the Marvel movies, man. Like, I've always been like a Batman dude, and
Right.
watching the Marvel movies, like I could just watch them for what they were. You know?
Yeah, and that's how I'm able to be like a not a harsh critic on all the films, because I find pretty much all those films were watchable because I'm not invested into the comics, and so the changes they've made, to me, the reality is the movies, and that's why I can dive into that.
Yeah, and they have a good formula.
Yeah,
They
You know,
do.
I mean, it is what it is, and like I like Man of Steel, you know, and a lot of Superman fans are like, they deconstructed and ruined him and all that stuff, and he broke Zod's neck, and I'm like, yeah, just like the movie, like you know,
What if he
That-
killed Zod in the comics? In
kill
issue
Zod
22.
left and right, you know, it's like whatever. It's just people. I don't know. They have problems with Zack
I think it
Snyder.
was Superman
Sorry,
in
Aaron.
issue
Go ahead.
22. Oh, no problem. I think it was issue 22, the Burn Superman. He ended up killing Zod on another dimension or something. But so that's what I enjoyed Man of Steel. I just didn't like the darkness of the costume and stuff. But that's another podcast entirely. Back to what I was saying.
Was a
Yeah,
heck of a body
we were
count.
on pause, so we just filled some
Yeah, that's
time.
yes. Yeah, so I was reaching back to Fletch, and I think part of it may be because I've watched the Fletch movie before I read the book, and then I read the book later. But because I say, yeah, the book, if you're comparing the book to any, whether it's a book, a novel, or a comic, to a movie, yeah, the movie's going to lose out because the written words you get so much more into. But and I think it may be useful. Like I said, I haven't read Ready Player One yet. I've got it to read. I haven't gotten that far, but I watched the movie. I enjoyed the movie. Now I'm curious about when I read the book.
I recommend the audiobook over reading the book because you get Will Wheaton reading it, and he's fantastic.
Okay.
I mean, so you find that.
Wesley Crusher,
Yes, he's fantastic as reading it. Trust me.
awesome.
But yeah, so I think maybe if you've got a book, you've got a movie, maybe watch the movie first and then read the book. But going off on a different tangent, I think at that point, like Kevin was saying about the Marvel movies, I'm more of a DC guy, but I love the Marvel comics also. I think, and I know some people, don't like the Marvel movies for this reason or that reason. I think the Marvel movies, in my opinion, are close enough to the book. They've changed it enough to make it for the modern audience. But personally, I think for most of the Marvel movies, they've kept it close enough to the comics. Whereas like with Snake Eyes, they went totally off the reservation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you pretty much summed it up there. Marvel does a really good job of taking the characters, making them relatable to a broad audience, but still keeping the core of what makes them that specific character true to their original source. And again, as I'll say it for the 100th time, beat that dead horse one more time. Just didn't feel that way with Snake Eyes. You got so far away from the original source that it just felt strange to me.
Right. So if you look at Tony Stark in the first Iron Man, right? He's a jerk. He's a jerk. He's a jerk. He's self-centered. He's only motivated by, his own psychopathy, pretty much. But he has a hero's journey. Look at him at the end of the movie,
Yeah.
right? It's like, and then look at Snake Eyes. And Snake Eyes, he's just like jerk, 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 jerk. Here I am. So
All right, I'll get your stone thing back.
whatever.
Snake
I'll
Eyes
take
was
the
on a
stupid
journey.
motorcycle helmet.
Snake Eyes was on a journey. I don't know if it was a hero's journey or not, but he was on a journey. Again, I think someone tied a rope around his leg, was dragging him through the journey. Basically, as Chad was saying, but he went on a journey, just not the hero's journey like we expected. But
Yeah.
But like Kevin said, I mean, it does have some rewatchability. Again, since I love G.I. Joe, I love Snake Eyes. It's harder for me to separate the two, the Snake Eyes, the comic, from what we got in this movie. So it's not as rewatchable for me. I'll probably rewatch it again since I bought it. I own it. I've got it on Vudu. I've got the screen up right now. I'm gonna rewatch these extra stuff here in a little bit, but yeah, and I'll probably watch the movie again. And like I've told other people, and I've said it before, and I said it earlier today, that I think it was a good movie. It just wasn't a good Snake Eyes movie or a G.I. Joe movie. So I probably will watch it again. It's not
I think
like
that's the problem. We were expecting a G.I. Joe movie, and we didn't get
yes,
it.
no,
That's
it's
the
not
problem.
Catwoman, for God's sake. So I mean, the Catwoman movie with Halle Berry, I downloaded that and for free, and I watched half of it. I still want my money back.
Oh man, I can't believe you did that. Did you guys ever see Steel with Shaquille O'Neal?
I like that better than
Yes.
Catwoman.
Kevin, you got to watch that, man. Sit down and watch
I'm
that
good.
thing.
I'm good.
No, I think you're a completist. I think you need to watch it.
Yeah, I think you need to watch it. In fact, maybe on my head.
What is that a complete of?
I don't know. I'm just throwing it back at you. I don't know.
I just try to get you to watch it.
It's an argument
If
for
it's a
argument's sake.
complete
Just
of
trying to have fun.
crap films, and maybe
Yeah.
I've got plenty back here. So
Yeah,
Well,
no,
it's like when you take that drink of something, you go, "Oh, this is horrible. Taste that." It's the exact same principle. You know what I mean? Like everybody does that.
yeah. Why
Like,
would
what is this food I ordered? Eat
Smells
this. This is
horrible.
terrible.
smell this?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. If you don't think like it, no, I don't want to smell it. We're doing the same thing to you, Kevin. You need to watch
I
Steel.
do have an affinity for crap films. I've got Showgirls back here, so
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody has guilty pleasures. You know. Absolutely.
maybe Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins will be a guilty pleasure. Let's just chalk it
There
up to
you
that.
go.
Oh, Lee owns Catwoman on Blu-ray. That's terrible, man.
I know why he owns Catwoman on Blu-ray, and I can't fault him too bad for the reasons why, and he knows why.
Oh,
Also, it's still
I
in
don't know. I'll ask him later. You know, I know we're probably going to wind it down, but like the thing that I keep asking myself, and I even wrote it in my notes, what makes this guy, this character, Snake Eyes? Other than like the audience being told that's Snake Eyes. Like what makes, if you think of everything throughout the history of G.I. Joe since 1982, right? Everything that has been Snake Eyes in animation, on paper, whatever, what makes this guy Snake Eyes? Black suit and a sword? You know, and it's like, and I'm not trying to trash on somebody's favorite movie, right? Because you guys do have points about that. I just ask myself that, like, what makes this guy Snake Eyes? And it's, you know,
According to the script, it's a loaded pair of dice.
yes, exactly. But you know what I mean? It's just it's an internalized question, and I'm like, I don't see what makes this guy Snake Eyes.
Right. And that's my biggest problem. I want to call him Jared. Jason, the better Albert brother.
Thank you for that.
Said-
Catman.
As he said earlier, you know, I forgot I was going with that now. But oh yeah, what makes the Snake Eyes? I mean, it's oh, just thinking about just maybe lose my concentration now. But
Well, I think we've all summed it up
yeah,
to a degree. I mean, I think we all kind of, there is the ninja element.
right.
To me, it was the interesting arc of the story was, and I even kind of throw Stalker into that core trio because it was the three of
Right.
them in Vietnam,
hmm
and then after Vietnam, how Snake Eyes comes with Tommy into Clan Ashikagi, and there's that element of being from another world, trying to be accepted into this world, gradually becoming accepted, while paradoxically somewhat overshadowing the favorite son,
Right.
you know, in Tommy, setting up that tension, and then, you know, eventually becoming a member of G.I. Joe or G.I. Joe. And that we've already discussed, that's just not really in this film hardly at all. So to me, that's pretty much it. He's a man of extraordinary ability. I mean, he was a alert, I believe, in Vietnam with Tommy, Long Range
Yep.
Reconnaissance Patrol.
Mhm.
He, you know, has the fortitude and ability to become a ninja as an outsider within this family. He becomes a member of the most elite anti-terrorist organization, aka G.I. Joe. He has that relationship with Scarlet that's really cemented around his sacrificing, you know, his face and his vocal cords in that terrible accident to save her in their first mission. And, you know, so all that's kind of thrown into a blender, and that's what you get with Snake Eyes. Then you put him in a cool black suit and give him a ninja sword. That's kind of. I think we just skipped a cool black suit and ninja sword.
Again, right? Started at the end and worked backwards.
Yes.
But to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, like the whole thing with Arashikage, with Tommy and Snake Eyes and Stalker going all the way back to the war, and Stalker's a character like in recent G.I. Joe that gets no love. Like he's in the first episode of the comic or issue. He's in the first episode of the animated series. He's Hawk's second in command. He's like the field commander. Stalker's like, he's a badass, capable guy. And like, he's just non-existent now. But anyway, I'm getting off my topic. But even the I Ching, right? Kevin, you showed your sword, and I have the white one up here, but I'm not going to reach way up on the ceiling and get it. Yeah. So I have the white one right up there under my Toys R Us sign.
Very
But
nice.
the I Ching, right? The fire and water, right? Tommy's the fire, Snake Eyes is the water, right? Kind of going back to that whole like Bruce Lee's thing with Jeet Kune Do is be like water. Water is formless, right? Whereas Tommy is he has to prove himself to his family, right? He's part of that Arashikage lineage. He's driven by that. And they did a good job in Rise of Cobra showing them as children, where Tommy always wanted their adoration, their appreciation. Like he wanted to show them, I'm good enough. And he was just driven by it. And it turned him dark, right? He was very fiery. Whereas Snake Eyes, right? This isn't his world. It isn't his life. He's the outsider, right? He gets accepted. He excels. He surpasses Tommy. It creates that rift that they've always had, that they still have, right? They will always have that. They are brothers. They have been through the crucibles of close quarters combat for a long time, but in Tommy's mind, he is the fire that Snake Eyes betrayed him by surpassing him, and he becomes the silent master. Whereas Tommy doesn't get that, right? Because Tommy gets framed and he leaves in disgrace. It's kind of that Anakin Skywalker Obi-Wan duality as well, right? Anakin wants to be a master. He is the chosen one. But they will not recognize him as the chosen one. They will not make him a master. He goes to the dark side, right? Anakin is Tommy. Obi-Wan is Snake Eyes. Anyway, just kind of going off on a rant.
Really
Yeah,
good
nice
point.
comparison. I like that. That was good.
Yeah. But
Nice reference.
there's lots of parallels. It is.
Oh, yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful story. Like, and that's kind of my beef is like, you just kind of toss this out there, like loaded dice, Snake Eyes, whatever. You're a jerk. Like it's like the movie Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood. Like rewatch that movie, how brilliant that movie is. Like William Money, like he was a terrible, terrible man, but he left all that behind. Had a wife, got kids, got hogs, wife died, got to go do this job. I'm not that dude. You know what I mean? It's just a brilliant story.
That's a really good point. I will say Stalker was my first action figure I ever bought, though. I love Stalker. That's my
I love
favorite
Stalker.
character to this day.
I made a custom set of Tommy, Snake Eyes, and Stalker in their Vietnam outfits. With Stalker with the big starlight scope, Tommy with his bow with the bandana. Like I'm staring right at him. But
Oh,
Can you share
that's
that on
good.
Facebook, Chad?
Yeah. yeah.
I think I've seen that. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. I'm not going to
that.
turn
That's
stuff, but they're right over there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've talked about Snake Eyes. I think we've talked into the ground, the good, the bad. You take both, and there you go. Never mind. So, unless you guys have any other thoughts, let's go ahead and find out if people want to hear more about you guys. Kevin, let's start with the Raider Nerd himself. If people want to follow up on you, where can they go?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix, and I'm one of the co-creators of the Fandom Podcast Network, where we have several shows under the umbrella of the Fandom Podcast Network. Our master feed is at fpnet.podbean.com. We're on Facebook. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on all podcast platforms, and also we're on YouTube as well. And like I said, we have all kinds of shows: Star Wars, Star Trek. I do a Highlander podcast. We celebrate movies with Couch Potato Theater and Time Warp, and we got a True Believers Marvel MCU podcast as well. We cover the gambit of fandom, so make sure you check us out, Fandom Podcast Network.
And Weasel Skull. If
Well, you
people want to
can-
hear more from you, where can they go?
You can find me personally at Weasel Skull on Twitter or Jason Albrick on Facebook and Instagram. I'm part of the Longbox Crusade Network. Just look up Longbox Crusade on all your podcatchers. And matter of fact, we'll be doing a live stream tomorrow on YouTube. So you can look up Longbox Crusade on YouTube if you want to
Doing it live stream.
Doing a live stream, 3:30 Central Time, and we're going to do a fan watch of a Flash Gordon episode and a Sherlock Holmes 1954-ish Sherlock Holmes episode. So should be a good time.
Very nice. And Chad, I don't know if you have anything you want, if you're working on anything you want to pimp out, or if you just want people to contact you. People want to
No.
talk to you. Is there-
I'm only on Facebook. I don't do Instagram or Twitter or any of that stuff. And it's just at Toy Guy Chat. I just collect toys, customize toys, build toys. That's it. It's all Joe and Joe related stuff.
Nice.
And Jason, speaking of Flash Gordon, one of my guilty pleasures is that Flash Gordon movie.
The 80s, 1980s.
God,
Oh,
with
love that
the
one.
the Queen soundtrack.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
if that would be considered a guilty pleasure. There it is.
Check
Yeah.
this out. You
It's
get,
the
you get, the,
Ted
you get the
versus
two
Flash.
Ted movies and Flash Gordon in this DVD special here.
Oh,
nice.
man.
Yeah, because he was in Ted.
Yeah.
Ted
Yeah,
That
no,
versus-
movie's so good.
I'm not going to call it guilty pleasure just because I think it's a great movie. Even, what are we, 40 years later? I still.
it's more cult now. It's not guilty. It's too
Yeah, that's
You
why I
got
was asking. I
Timothy
don't know.
Dalton in it, man.
It's
That's a good
fantastic.
film.
I don't care what anyone says.
That's a
Got
segment.
maxed
we
out
have-
Cedow.
That's a segment we have on our Culture Clash pop culture show. Is it now cult classic or is it still guilty pleasure?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Flash, in your estimation, has gone from guilty pleasure to cult classic.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
What about Starship Troopers?
That would definitely not be guilty pleasure. That falls under like classic now. So yeah.
Love them.
Showgirl, guilty probably, but now it's become cult. So we'll see. Ask me that in 5 years.
My wife is just commenting here. Another one I really like is Beastmaster.
Oh yeah, Dar the Beastmaster.
That's cult classic
Yes.
right now.
What
Yeah.
about Hudson Hawk? I liked Hudson Hawk.
Oh, I love
Oh,
Hudson
yeah,
Hawk.
Bruce
guilty,
Willis.
That's guilty pleasure.
Pleasure.
I love Hudson Hawk. I think, yeah, that's a great
That
movie.
is
Yeah,
definitely
Hudson
guilty
Hawk is-
pleasure.
It's good.
Throw more out. I'll give it to you.
But anyway, we're just talking about guilty pleasures and cult classics. So I guess it's time to end this. So if I get it from each of you, Yo Joe, let me get you one at a time. If I get a Joe out of you, Chad,
Yo Joe.
Kevin,
Yo, Joe.
and Weasel Skull.
Yo, Joe.
That's a good one.
And this is General Head. Bravo team dismissed. Yo Joe. Over in the chat, we have Lee Sharp commenting Beastmaster. Great stuff. Lee also says his guilty pleasure is Green Lantern. I enjoyed Green Lantern.
That is definitely guilty pleasure right there.
Man,
had a-
I love almost everything Martin Campbell does, but boy, yeah, that
The stuff on Oa in Green Lantern is beautiful.
beautiful.
The Oa
Yeah.
stuff is fantastic. Everything else just kind of
This one
Yeah.
guy, friends with work somewhat. She we was talking about it. I hadn't seen it yet, and she's like, "Have you seen Green Lantern yet?" No, not yet. She's like, "Oh, don't go. You're gonna hate it." Okay, I'm still gonna watch it just because that's who I am, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't. I didn't like Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern. I don't like him as Hal Jordan because he's too Ryan Reynolds. But
see that.
but I enjoyed the movie for what it was. Not as good as it could have been, but it's not as bad as people say it was. So
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, you can probably answer this. What's the verdict that Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern was supposed to be in the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, and they changed that to Martian Manhunter? Because I know the Martian Manhunters were reshoots with that extra whatever million they gave him.
Yeah, there was just too much dark cloud over Green Lantern. They just did not want to touch that. I mean, it would. I would have liked to have seen it personally, just because I do see where Aaron's saying he is Ryan Reynolds, but that's why we like watching him in movies, because there's that Ryan Reynolds part we just can't get enough of.
Right.
Like Free Guy. It's just a Ryan Reynolds romp.
And if you watch the new movie with Dwayne Rock Johnson and Gal Gadot, what's it called? Red Notice.
Is that out?
Yeah, it's out. Just dropped on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna
And
go
I
watch
just
it.
finished watching it, and it was fun. But he's Ryan Reynolds, and
Right.
I don't have a problem with it because I love Ryan Reynolds. I'm not sick of
I
Ryan
love Ryan
Reynolds. Right now.
Was it Hitman's Bodyguard? Right? Is that other?
Yeah, that's the other one.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
He's good. He's just
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
He's
it's
not
kind
making movies
of
for a while.
it's kind of like why you go watch a Vince Vaughn film. You're going
Right.
to get your Vince Vaughn, with the exception of
Oh,
a few
yeah.
films he's done. But you're going to get your Vince Vaughn and your Vince Vaughn. So
Well, it's the same thing with you watch Starship Troopers, you watch the RoboCop, 1 and 2, you watch Total Recall. Like if it's Paul Verhoeven, you're watching a Paul Verhoeven.
yeah, oh yeah.
Like,
you're
there's
going to
the
get your
door.
ultra violence. You're going to get your nudity.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, give it to me.
It's just Verhoeven.
There will be blood.
Yes, with
Yeah,
some
yeah.
type of social commentary hidden in there somewhere as well.
Yeah. Generally in the form of like commercials.
yeah.
Would you
I'll
like
buy
to know
that for
more?
$1.
That's right. A new car security system.
Too bad about Kenny.
Oh, very
Oh
nice.
yeah.
Look at that. Even shows like a big wound in his gut.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Okay. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna do it. Give me a second. I'm gonna mute.
And everyone out there in the chat that's watching on YouTube, thank you guys very much for joining us. I appreciate you guys. I'm sure most of you guys were here because Chad, but I'll take what I can get. Thank you guys very much for showing
wow.
up.
Look at that. That is awesome. That's the Tommy one, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Hang on a second.
That is sweet.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh,
There you go.
wow.
It's gonna show us another one.
Man, I'm
Look at all-
jealous. I wish I had that ability.
Look at all those Joes out there. That's so cool.
Yep. Before the show, you show in the very top show, he's got some tomahawks up there, and oh, there he is.
Look at here.
We made you big screen so we can go. Probably can't hear us.
There you
There
go.
We made you big screen so we can see your toys a little better.
You're still muted. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, look at that.
Always with the still muted. Anyway, there's the snake eyes.
That's so cool.
Sweet.
Love it.
Right
Yeah.
on that 60.
Do you need to see that storm shadow again?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Let me go back and get him. I bet you my headset set will reach. Hold on.
Lee says, awesome show. Thank you very much, Lee. Appreciate you tuning in.
Yeah, it was good chatting with you, Lee. Oh, look at that. That's so cool.
That is
We
awesome.
should be
I
back.
love the headband.
Yeah. And I even gave him his cool little towel.
Nice.
The
That's
28th,
nice.
the 28th of the month of November, we're going to be recording episode 40 of G.I. Joe. So if you guys want to come back and catch that, we'd love to have you. Let me go back to here. There we are.
Thank you. I was tired of looking at my own face.
Oh, and you keep showing those awesome figures. That's what you get. Oh,
That's really cool.
That's just because we were talking about him.
yeah, no, very nice. Oh,
Kevin starts showing Ed 209, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get my stupid Vietnam
We're
figures.
going to start showing off toys now.
Lee in the chat saying love the customs
Look at
chat.
that. You want to see show off toys? I showed this to Aaron earlier. This is that Fun School India freaking G.I. Joe Vamp,
Wow.
the
Oh,
red
wow.
racing one. I just got this in the mail yesterday. There you go.
Nice.
Nice and
That's
big.
so cool.
Yeah. So I don't even know if I'm going to open that.
I think this next to the Ram, this was like my first vehicle. With those original ones when they came out. I mean,
Yeah.
these are just great vehicles, these things here,
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. Who needs doors? Come on. It's just too cool.
Yeah. The Vamp is just a timeless vehicle.
I know.
think that was like the first one I had too. I think that was like the first toy set that I
Yeah,
had.
just beautiful.
Clutch was a cool character too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I got the Jump Jetpack first in 82.
Hmm.
I know that Flash was my first like single carded Joe. I remember that. And then I think like I got
And he
the
came
Jump
with the
Jet-
missile launcher, right?
No, that's Hawk.
It's Hawk.
The MMS missile? Yeah, that's
the-
Colonel
The
Hawk.
3 missiles, yeah.
Grand Slam came with the HAL, the heavy attack laser.
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, good times. Good times.
I know. Well, I got Stalker because I just love that that tiger stripe BDUs that he was wearing with the beret. I just thought he looked super.
Oh yeah.
My
Stalker.
first
Hang on.
G.I.
Let me
Joe
grab that
was-
dude.
My first GI Joe was straight arm Grunt because he looked most like an army guy, you know,
Oh yeah.
and he was the easiest to find at the time too. Yeah, and then eventually picked up the rest, the straight arms. But that original Grunt was my favorite and first.
There you go. Vietnam Stalker.
Oh, man,
Oh,
look at
there you
that.
go. Look at that starlight scope.
Yeah. I told you it had the big old crazy starlight scope.
That
Lowlight
is
called. He
cool.
wants his weapon back.
Yeah.
And this one, he's like, look like who?
Lowlight's my favorite Joe.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Lowlight's my dude.
Aesthetically, he was cool. I mean, aesthetically, he looked really cool.
I think I also really gravitated toward him because in the cartoon, you know, a lot of people, they were like, oh, but Lowlight was just, he was not having it. Lowlight was no nonsense in the cartoon.
Yeah.
Big fan of him.
All right, gentlemen. Well, I need to run. It's very nice talking with you finally, Chad. And we've been talking on Facebook for a while, but it's very nice actually.
Nice to meet you, Chad.
Face to face.
Yeah, you too, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I
nice.
appreciate the hangout. I really do.
And we'll have to have you on again sometime, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm always around.
I got to tell Jared that after meeting Chad, I got a new guy to be jealous of all the Joes. that he has.
No, it's, you know,
No.
nothing to be jealous of. It's just stuff. You know?
It's just stuff.
It's just, you know, it's just stuff.
Then go ahead and send it
No.
over to me.
No, you've obviously got a passion for it. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I really do. I appreciate that. It's just like it's recapturing my childhood, you know. I have the disposable income like we talked about earlier, and
Right.
it's just a passion of mine.
Very nice.
My way to get away.
Yeah,
Um,
I once saw the flag in the wild, and it was actually fairly reasonably priced. I think because I saw it like on the last day of a show, and it was kind of in a banged up box, and I think it was all there, but they were wanting like it was like $250 for it, which isn't terrible for the.
That's it?
Yeah. I mean, this was several years ago, so
Still.
I'm sure it's much more now. But I was like, man, where am I going to put that sucker? You know,
That's
it's
the
like-
question.
And
You're
now
gonna put it
it's like-
somewhere like
yeah.
that.
Now it's like if I would have thought about it a little bit harder.
I just to have this here, I had to take a 4x8 sheet of plywood and cut 1 foot off each side, right?
Right.
And build a base, and then like everything on the wall comes up from that base
Right.
because there's nowhere else you can put it, and it's on casters. It'll roll.
So it's all
They're
built around
gigantic.
the flag.
Yeah,
Well, it's pretty awesome.
appreciate
All right, well,
that.
I'm gonna go ahead and end the broadcast. So again, everyone out in the chat, thank you very much for joining us. As long as
guys.
nothing comes up, I plan on
Appreciate it.
returning the 28th of November at 1:00 Pacific time. Talking about GI Joe issue 40 and the cartoon. I forget which one it is offhand, but I'll get who I can to join me on that. That's when I end the broadcast. Thank you guys again very much.
Thanks, guys.
All
Yo,
right,
Joe.
Yo, Joe.
Joe.